It's like the leafiest thing possible to need to lose games. Or maybe not, maybe I shouldn't say need to lose games. Let's start with this. To have your fan base accept that it's time for you to just lose games and sell and try to get the top 5 pick, especially considering like how important it is this season, which also is the leafiest thing ever, for you to sell that pick, overpay on a trade, have the next year not pan out and be like, okay, well, at least we have our first round pick. Oof. No, we don't have our first round pick. And then finally, the fan base is like, we're ready to sell. Team's not good. Let's get back at it next year. Let's see if we can get some picks. Let's see if we can get some assets. And let's get ready to go for next season. Let's reset and get ourselves in a better position. Craig Berube doesn't play Easton Cowan. Okay, whatever. He hasn't had the best stretch. Calle Yarncroke stays. Nylander returns. Rafi gets his first game here. And they beat the Vancouver Canucks. You pick up 2 points. The leafiest things of all time with this group. At least the one thing that we can take away from tonight is what was said on the broadcast by Elliott, in that the Leafs are prepared to start selling. They are having those conversations, so that's a good sign. But just so leafy, like immediately after the fan base has just come to accept, like, that's it, we're cooked, we're done. Let's go win a game. I see here in the chat, people are happy that they won. I mean, look, it's my favorite hockey team. I want them to win a Stanley Cup. So I get it, and I get wanting to see them win. This is one of those situations where, for like legitimately the betterment of the organization, I think the best possible situation is just to lose. So I think for me, that's where it's unfortunate. And it's tough too, because it happens off the top right away to start the game. It's like, okay, Vancouver's got the Jets here tonight. They've got wheels. They're going to be able to close this thing out, and Leafs fans can be one step closer to the to the top 5 pick. and then Vancouver's and the Leafs leaf, and I don't know. We'll talk about all of it on the post-game show here tonight. I also want to get your thoughts as fans about tonight's game. That was a good third period for the Maple Leafs. I think that was about it. And I don't think I'm being a dickhead or being overly harsh to say that. Through the first 40 minutes, it felt like that was all Vancouver all the time. Like, it did feel like Vancouver was carrying the play through the first period until basically like the last couple of minutes, when that first line and the second line, actually a combination of the two, put together some really good ozone shifts where they had some extended time, some really good looks, put the puck on net a lot, and it kind of evened out the shots there again by the end of the first period. But it felt like, for the most part, it really was just all Vancouver all the time. And then finally, you get to the third period, no Morgan Rielly. He doesn't come out. He's not going to play for the remainder of this game, upper body injury. And the second that PR tweet came out from the Maple Leafs, there was a text sent in a group chat that said, guaranteed win coming. Mind you, at that point in time, the Maple Leafs were down, I believe. Maybe I'm misremembering the time. No, they were down 2-1 to start the third. They announced that he's out. Immediately, the Maple Leafs score. Tie game. And you just know this is a win. Crazy stuff from Toronto here tonight. I see in the chat, Johnny Criniti says, what are you saying? We played well in the second. I don't know, man. Well is relative. I think they generated more chances, more shots, but it wasn't like they were hitting the net in the second period, particularly at an outrageous clip. That really didn't come until the third period, and that offensive production didn't come until the third period. They obviously only scored one in the third to tie the game and send it to overtime, but I didn't think that was a very good first 40. That is a bad hockey team over there for Vancouver. Their goaltenders, their regular goaltenders, not anywhere to be found. The only star they've got over there on that side is Elias Pettersson. He's been unreal defensively this season, but he's suffering from what Auston Matthews suffered with, where he just can't score at the same rate. But he's playing defense and blocking shots. I just didn't think it was a very good game by anybody involved. Like, all the way through, both teams, it was not a very good game for anybody. And then the Maple Leafs had a great third period. And a funny celebration, as pointed out by Muck9625. Why is Matthews selling like that shootout win like that? Chill, it's Vancouver. Yeah. There is somebody in the chat who keeps sending this. Amelia LeCavalier keeps saying, do you know my dad? Look at my last name. I saw the last name. I saw the comments in the chat. Yes, I'm well aware of who Vinny LeCavalier is. And I see the super chat that comes in from Mike St. Jean here. Hey, Zach, want to address this Amelia LeCavalier girl? I think all of us in the chat know who Vinny LeCavalier is. Tampa legend. Almost traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs at one point. But I don't know, Amelia. How do we believe you? How do we believe you that it's really LeCavalier's daughter? How do we know? How do we know for sure? That's all I'll say. I want to take calls here tonight. We'll get to all of the segments that we have on the show as normal. We'll get to our best bet and recap that. We'll recap the Crave the Stats and the box score here tonight. We'll also get to our play of the game, our grade of the game, all of that throughout the course of the show. But one thing that we will do as this goes on all night is a couple different things. Start with Super Chats. Proceeds from our Super Chats go to Sick Kids Charity. You want to get your question, your comment, your concern read here on the show, send in a Super Chat. If you're wondering, how do I send in a Super Chat? Well, you click the little $sign that's there in the chat. You type the message you want to send. You click send, and it will pop up here for me to read and in the chat for everyone to see during the course of the show. I will read them. I will answer all of them. And a reminder to people, Super Chats, go to Sick Kids Charity, Canada's #1 research-intensive children's hospital, #3 in North America. This season, I believe we're almost now at like 4,400, which was the mark that we put together last season. To be at that point as we're about to head into February for the Olympic break, obviously we're not going to add on this year, it seems like at this point, playoff Super Chats, but if we can get to 5K plus by the end of this season, that's pretty amazing. And I mean, all of that credit goes to you guys in the chat. So I want to give you guys a round of applause. I think everybody in the chat who has sent Super Chats should give themselves a pat on the back, or if you haven't and you see other people doing it, give them a little bit of applause here, because it's not going to me, it's not going in my pockets. Proceeds from our Super Chats are going to Sick Kids Charity. It's an amazing thing that you guys are doing and being a part of, especially when all we're doing here on the post-game show is just coming on here to lose our shit every now and then about the Toronto Maple Leafs. So a lot of fun having you guys do this and be a part of the show. But let's get to some of these Super Chats that we've got as of right now that have come in either before the game or before the show, I should say, or throughout the show here tonight. Let's start with what we had coming in before the game, because I saw people, or during the game, excuse me, before the show, because I saw people involved in this one, and I do think this is a good point, and I want to point this out to people. Maxentius Decimus says, Scotiabank would be rowdy if they let real fans in. I mean, it's two-parter. So one of that comes from how awesome the environment was, for the most part, in there in Vancouver tonight. Leafs fans always have and always will travel well. You hear it, how loud they are in opposing buildings, especially in Canadian markets, how difficult they make it on the home team's fans. And I think that's awesome. You know, the fact that you go to a Sens game and it's like 60-40 Sens fans. So, you know, you can travel to Vancouver and it's loaded with Leafs fans from the fact that the opening puck drop is just go Leafs go and Canucks chants back and forth, battling for who can be louder. And then you see Matthews score that goal in OT. I know we're joking about the celly that he had and where they're at in the standings and what it ultimately means. Like, yes, you beat Vancouver. It's the last place team. Okay, great. You could beat anybody, whatever. But it's at the point, as I said earlier, you're trying to kind of fall off. Selly's that, whatever. They pan to the camera to show, okay, who's he selling to? And it's loaded with Leafs fans. So the team and the team's play aside, kudos to Leafs fans for how well they travel, how loud they are, how much they show out for their team on the road. I think it's an awesome thing that we have here in Toronto, and it is why Maple Leafs fans are the best fans in the NHL by far. Leafs fans take a lot of flack for shit because we are loud. We have people who can go polar opposite sides on things. We have people who can get nuts, including myself. I'm not taking myself out of that conversation, but at the end of the day, every single fan base wishes they could be as big and as loud as the Maple Leafs fans. And guess what? If that's not as important to you, or if that doesn't say enough to you about, oh, they're jealous because they wish they could be us, I personally guarantee you every fan base, maybe outside of Montreal because I think they compete with it as well, but every fan base around the NHL wishes that they had fans as loud and as far spread as what Maple Leafs fans do, because quite frankly, the money they would be bringing in and how easy it would be for them to continue to build arenas and facilities and upgrade everything that they have because of the revenue that gets drawn in, whether you like that or not. Every single owner wishes they had fans as passionate and as strong and as far spread as Leafs fans. Like, pretty awesome for them to be in there in Vancouver tonight, being as loud as they were, making as much noise as they were. So credit to Leafs fans for that here tonight as well. And Max saying that the other part is, yes, obviously super loud in Vancouver, and just gave them the props that I think they deserve for showing up and being as loud as they were there in that barn tonight. But the other part is something we've talked about here, and it's that Leafs fans that go in there aren't just, it's not that Leafs fans are quiet. It's that the real Leafs fans don't get to go in there. It's the people who are loud and rowdy and would get on their hands, get on their feet and clap their hands and make some noise. They just don't get to go. It's corporate people, and it's really unfortunate. You know, you read the article that came out the other day about the home atmosphere in Toronto. And I don't blame like Leafs fans in general. I think it's more a statement of the organization and the state that we're at, and the price of tickets and everything is just, you know, there was a quote in there about a season ticket holder who got scalded because he was cheering in the lower bowl. It's not just like a made up thing. It's real. It happens. Another super chat, Maxentius Decimus says, send 44 to Robada Island. So, two-part on this. First part is the game Morgan Rielly was putting together for himself tonight was like the ultimate press box special. If there was ever a game to say, take me out of the lineup and play me less, if you actually want to be good, it was this one tonight. Now, if the goal is to stink and you want the team to bottom out, maybe putting Morgan Rielly on the ice for extended periods of time is actually the better decision. But I cannot fathom how tough of a night Morgan Rielly was having coming off of the stretch that he's had where he's been so poor. I know he scores the other night in Seattle, the first power play goal by a defenseman for the Leafs all season, but he's stunk. Like, this guy has been in a position here now this season where he doesn't deserve to be playing. If he's going to play that way, you cannot put him on the ice. Diz K, he played 12 minutes and was a -2. Exactly. And a plus-minus, and a plus-minus is not everything, but it's pretty telling when his has been as bad as it has, and the eye test is also telling you how much he's getting his shit pumped in the minutes that he's playing. Maybe this is just an opportunity for you here now, depending on what this injury is, to just shut him down for a while. The only thing that you kind of end up having is he's going to get a huge break because of the Olympics that are coming up, where he's going to sit out for that 3-week period anyways, along with other guys, and they're going to come back healthier and refreshed. But he's been playing poor. You want to see other guys get opportunities. You want to see other guys get into games. And there's obviously people in this lineup that are going to naturally play ahead of him, Morgan Rielly being one. You just got to hope that after something like that, with that injury, it's not that I'm wishing injury to Morgan Rielly, but with an injury like that, you're going to open the door for other guys to get chances. Let's talk about one of the guys who did play tonight, and I'll open up the call lines here shortly, but one of the other guys who did play tonight, Marshall Rafi. I think his game got better as it went on, but call it what it is, man. This is a tough night for Marshall Rafi. And I know a lot of us, myself in that conversation, wanted to see Marshall Rafi play and see what he's got. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here tonight because he hasn't played that much hockey this season. He broke his wrist in training camp or preseason, was out for an extended period, joined the Marlies, looked really good with the Marlies, and then followed up, joined the Maple Leafs on this trip here. Didn't get to play to start the trip, but is going to get to play some opportunities here now with the combination of a Rielly injury and probably just the fact that you didn't play Benoit. Like, you're going to probably not play Phil Myers. So you're potentially going to give him more opportunity to play. But Marshall Rafi had a tough start. Tanner Morris says he played great. No, I'm not saying this to shit on Marshall Rafi, but that just was not a that just was not a real strong start from the guy. He looked shaky. He looked like he was just lacking a little bit of confidence, which I think if he continues to play and get minutes and get opportunities, he'll grow. But it just looked like he was kind of panicking with the puck a little bit, like he was kind of chasing it a bit. Maybe it was the speed or the physicality of the NHL game compared to the AHL. I know it's a little bit harder for defensemen to make the transition, but he didn't have his best game here tonight. I don't think this is a game where you just say, hey, scrap it. The guy can't do it. He's done. I don't want to see him play. If that's how Berube treats this thing when you go into your next game on Monday night, I think automatically that should just be gas Berube, like you're done. If this season is a tank and reset season, you need to see what you have of these kids. You need to see if Rafi can play, if Thrun can play, if Villeneuve can play, if Quillen can play. You're obviously already seeing a reluctance to play some of the younger guys. Two guys that you have in the press box in this one tonight, Easton Cowan, Jacob Quillen. Doesn't really make much sense to me. I don't see this season being salvageable, even with 3 wins here before the Olympic break. I can't see any way that this thing gets turned around, that you can actually get to a playoff spot. Best case scenario is finding your way into the lottery. You got to play, kids. You got to realize, okay, do we have something or do we not? And I'm not willing to say that after playing Rafi for 1 game here tonight against the Vancouver Canucks, that is or isn't that is the determining game for what he is. I don't think it's fair to him. I don't think it's fair to how this game went in general. And to be completely honest with you, playing him for 9 minutes and 40 seconds after Morgan Rielly went out as well, that's outrageous. You put two kids in the press box, you don't play them, you don't give them an opportunity to learn and grow, and then you take Rafi, who does play, and you play him by far the least minutes in this game. Stetcher, 23-29. Riley was injured. He played 12-34. Jake McCabe, 27-40. Ekman-Larsson, 28-10. Carlo, 23-44. Just makes no sense to me. Give the guy some minutes. Give him an opportunity. Give him a chance to fight his way out of it. Instead, nope, can't go, can't play. I don't get that. We'll open up call lines here in a minute as well. Keep hitting that like button. Subscribe here to the channel, Leaf Station 401, right here on YouTube. For every set of 50 likes, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250. I don't care how far this thing goes, with about 400 people watching the Leafs Nation After Dark post-game stream right now. We could run up these likes easily. The more likes we get, the more viewers we bring, the more chances for super chats, and the more super chats, the more proceeds going to Sick Kids Charity. And another super chat that came in, Zach Green. Leafs can't even tank properly. Leafs will undoubtedly win 14 of 28 here. All we will see is the sale of Bobby, OEL, and maybe Lawton. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing, thinking about who they could trade. It's something that's been brought up by people in the chat. I've seen people online. I think callers have called in and said this here as well when it comes to the keep versus sell. And I saw the comment coming in from Magic Gaming YouTube there, like, who do you sell if I'm the GM, asking me. It is interesting because I think you have to have a very clear plan set in place if you are the Maple Leafs that kind of determines a couple of different things. One, are you rebuilding or are you retooling? If you are rebuilding, then everybody must go. Lawton, OEL, Carlo, McCabe, and I'm not saying they all get done at the deadline. Some of these guys could happen in the summer, whatever. But if it's a rebuild, you just need to try to off older guys as quickly as possible and get as many assets back as humanly possible for those players. Doing it at the deadline is probably the better move because demand is higher, teams are more desperate, you do have some good pieces, and those are kinds of pieces that people would probably want back, but you just don't want to have guys in your lineup that will bump out opportunities and minutes for younger, skilled, faster players. You don't want that to be the case here if your team is rebuilding. You do want to give chances to your Cowens and Quillens and Villanueves and whoever else that might be coming through. Maybe Ben Danford makes the jump next season. Maybe you have Tinas Luke Koblar come over from the Swedish league and he makes the team. Like, you never know who the surprises would be, but you don't want to look at your lineup and be like, well, we can't play Tinas, who had an unbelievable preseason, because God damn it, Callie Yarncroke's in the way, or Scott Lawton's in the way, or Nick was in the way. That can't be a conversation that's had. You need to start to identify rebuild or retool. And if the goal is retool, then the next question comes in this. And this is where it starts to determine stuff going forward. And obviously, I'm not a GM, and I'm not speaking to this because I know stuff like what Elliot Friedman would be talking about. But if it's a retool and your plan is to be better next season and start right away and get back at it next year, then what you need to do is weigh which veterans are worth keeping around. So I look at OEL. I think that's probably a piece that you trade because it was brought up the other day on a call. I apologize to whoever the caller was that mentioned this. I remember what they said. I just don't remember who it was that said it. If they're in the chat, bring it up. But OEL is probably at the highest value you'll get of him. He's mid-30s here right now. He's got a couple years left on his deal. The idea of getting a defenseman who's left shot, he can play in your top four, he can play first or second power play unit. He's physical, he'll battle, he's defensively responsible, he can transition up ice. That's the kind of guy who under term can bring you back a lot more potentially, given his contract status, what his AAV is, and how well he's playing right now. Some team might get horny and some team might decide to do it. I look at a guy like Scott Lawton, and you need to have this conversation with him when you get there. And this is all keeping in mind the idea of we're trying to be better next season. You look at it right away and say, okay, Scott Lawton, I think, is a guy who can help you be better next year. And probably the couple years after that, he's good for young guys. He's good for vets. And additionally, if he's going to re-sign, like, You're probably getting him at a fairly good contract. I'm not going to say cheap, but a fairly good contract. So I think him being here is a good mentor type piece to the young guys, and he can help you be competitive next year and the year after that and the year after that. And, if it doesn't work next season, whatever, for the group, then you're in a precarious position, but you'd at least have him under contract so you could deal the guy with a little bit more value. As of right now, he's going to be a UFA at the end of the season. So you need to figure out what you're trying to do, and you need to figure out what he wants to do. And as it was brought up, Berube doesn't play him. Does he want to be here doing that? I wouldn't. I think Scott Laughton should be playing higher in the lineup. At minimum, I think he should be playing third line. I think he should be playing with more talented players than what he's being given with Järnkrok and Lorentz right now. I think he makes it work with Lorentz. Calle Järnkrok just doesn't do very much for me, but he's the kind of guy I wouldn't mind keeping and re-signing. I think he can play higher. I think he's better than a fourth-line center. I think Berube's got something against him. But if he doesn't want to re-sign, yes, you trade him. Bobby McMann is the type of piece I trade regardless. I think that his value right now is the highest that you're probably going to get for him. You re-sign him to a contract. You're looking at paying a bit. You're probably looking at somewhere between $4.5 to $5.5 million for about 5 years is what my assumption would be. You're going to trade him now to a contending team. They might be desperate for a guy who can play middle 6 minutes, potentially top 6 if you really need it. He can play with pace. He can play with tempo. He's a physical guy, and he can score goals, and he's on a heater right now. I think you just maximize that and get the most for it. Scott Laughton is not putting up the most points. Obviously, people around the league will recognize the type of player he is, but you don't want to just be selling on a guy who is potentially not valued at what he should be or could be just because you want to trade the guy. If he wants to be here and the value on the player is not as high as you'd like, then you probably just try to keep the guy, especially if you're going to retool, as I pointed out, rather than rebuild. Also, I saw us in the chat here, Leafs have second and third round picks. You can't retool. You're in a rebuild stage. I disagree with that. I don't think this team is as bad as they are right now, but I think you need to very clearly address some stuff. You need to address how old and slow you are. You need to address the injury issues that you've had, and a healthy season will definitely help. You need to address your defense. And I think that getting picks back and stocking the cupboards again, A, helps you then go out and trade for younger, skilled, faster players that you can bring into this team. And B, it hopefully helps you be able to find a way to draft some guys and find some hidden gems. Because if you can add to your collection of second and third and fourth rounders, I don't know how likely it is that you get back a first unless someone's really willing to pay on a Bobby McMann deal. But unless you can find that, or you eat a Brandon Carlo contract, or some of Brandon Carlo contract, like that kind of thing, then somebody might have to pay more because you're going to do that for them. And I think that puts you in a good spot to then start to pick up some younger skilled guys. And then I think doing the approach of, hey, maybe we can use second, third, fourth line guys to acquire young skilled players puts you in a good spot. I think that's it for... Oh, there was one more super chat there. It came in from Zach Green. Zach says, that's W, 1 of 20, boys. Yeah, see, that's a thing. 6 1/3 here is upset that we're talking about losses and being happy about or wanting the team to lose so that we can get closer to that top 5 pick, and saying, we are missing Willie for those losses. Well, Willie was playing earlier on in the season. So I'm not going to just give that excuse. And then on top of that, the other part of it is why, what gives you hope that they can win the next 20 games of 28 to close out the season? Or they won the one here tonight. So 19 of the last 27 games is effectively what you would need to pace yourself into a playoff spot. And you also need some help here now from Boston and Buffalo and maybe Montreal to fall off a cliff a little bit to get there. don't think that that's help is coming the way you want, and I don't think that this is a team who can win 19 of the next games. If they do, well, holy shit. I will put up my hand. I will admit I was completely wrong, but I don't think we're going to see that this year. Let's go to our next caller here on the line, or our first caller here on the line to open up the call lines for tonight's postgame show. Let's welcome in Zoom user, who, again, I could only assume is Mark from Oshawa.
How are you, Zach?
Yeah, there we go. I knew it. Mark, what's up, buddy?
Not bad. I lost one point that I had, but you had mentioned it, so I'll have to try and think of it. But I was going to say, overall, honestly, I wasn't even excited about the game. Like, I thought Vancouver, for the most part, was the better team. The Leafs played a little better in the third, I thought, but the Leafs didn't come out with a must-win energy, urgency. At least I thought, anyway, on the game itself. Like,
sorry, what? Say that again?
I didn't think the Leafs came out with the intensity of it's a must-win game. Like, I thought Vancouver, for the most part, was fairly good compared to us, except for the third period. I thought the Leafs played a little bit better late in the third.
Yeah, I mean, is it a must-win, Mark? Like, you're.
Well,
yes, it is, I guess, but it's must-win if you're going to win 20. They didn't come out playing that way. I didn't think they had it. They played their best in the second period there either. It was the third period where it really turned on. And I mean, again, I point out, yeah, you can only play who's in front of you, but it was against a team that's just like tanking effectively. Like, it's a team that traded Quinn Hughes. They're getting younger. They're missing Besser. They're missing Boyum. Like, they're missing good pieces who aren't playing here as well. And the limited good pieces that they have, as well as the fact that they're playing a guy whose name I kept struggling to pronounce before I even came on here, Tolopilo, I think is how you say it, in net for the Canucks. Like, I don't know, man. Like, that needed to be way better. That wasn't even close to playing like a must-win game, and then they just happened to turn it on and play in the third period well. Like, the thing is that I think is going to be interesting down the stretch is you have good enough players in Matthews and in Nylander, as well as a healthy Matthew Nyes, if he can play, that, like, you're going to be competitive. You're going to win games. So, I don't know, man. Like, you're just going to find ways to get out of ones like this. You're going to find ways to win games like you did against Chicago in the comeback earlier this season, the Penguins earlier in the season when you came back in those ones. Like, you're going to find ways to do that just because you have enough talent.
Yeah, I mean, like, when I said must win, I wasn't meaning it like, a must win, like we're actually going to go somewhere, like, because I've already told myself, we're not making the playoffs this year. Like you said, we're not going to win 19 more games, but like I said, the game to me, yeah, we won. I wasn't yelling and screaming going, yeah, we won. But I mean, I was happy to hear, I just found out maybe a half hour ago that the Leafs and Matthews talked, and he knows basically what's going to go on, and he's committed to us. So that's a good thing. But I mean, yeah. if I could pick a player that I thought played well tonight, I know Wall let 2 goals in, but I thought he was outstanding to a point.
Yep. I would agree with that. I thought Joseph Woll was really good tonight. I guess that is a positive, you know what, because the guy's been playing poorly over the last stretch. He's not had his best games here. He's been a little bit spotty. He obviously, I'm not blaming the season on him at all. Like, he put together a real good run of games and wins for himself over that stretch where the team was kind of on fire, and Hildeby jumped in there and was great as well. But the fact that he was struggling the way he was and has found a way tonight, I should say, to level out, play well, give the team a chance to win is a positive sign, because you're going to need the goaltenders going forward. Like, if you want to be competitive again next season, you need the goaltenders to go forward. You need them to be good. You don't want to have their confidence shot. You don't want to see them completely fall off a cliff this season. Like, even in the games you do lose this year to close out this season, you hope they're not just blowouts where the goaltenders walk away with like 800, 810 save percentages every night. You want to see them battle their asses off and show up for the team. But losses aren't gonna be like the worst thing in the world. But you do want to see them play well in front of the team, so that when defensively they get better and the team in front of them gets better, if it happens within the next couple of years, then they are ready to go and they'll be there to backstop you through to some type of playoff run if that's the case. But I mean, that's more a long-term thing than it is short-term in the rest of this season. But it was good to see Joseph Woll play that way tonight because I did think he was on his game. So good point, Mark.
Yeah. No, I'm just used to Wall, like even compared to last year when he played. Like I'm just used to Wall in general only letting in 2 or 3 goals, never mind 4 to 6 goals every time you play kind of thing, right? Like I'm just not used to that this year compared to what you saw last year, and you win the division, right? Like I'm actually quite dumbfounded how the way we played last year, winning a lot of 2-1 games, 3-2, like low scoring games, tight defense, goaltending was good, forwards were decent. We win the division, and then obviously we could have won the series against Florida, but didn't. But it's just a big turnaround, and I don't think it has anything to do with Marner. I mean, sure, you miss his points, but who cares about the regular season? I want the wins in the playoffs. I don't give a shit if you get nothing in the regular season. Matthews could literally get no goals in the regular season and pop off and win me 1 and 2 rounds in the playoffs, and I'd be happy with that. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to do that conversation here tonight, really, but I do agree that this team wouldn't be. I don't think that it drastically changes them at all if Marner is here or was here,
yeah.
But yeah, I get that. Also, I just want to point out there was a comment in the chat that came in from the Nation Network YouTube channel, which if everybody hasn't yet, make sure to subscribe that. Dan Riccio, who is one of the 3 hosts himself, Lindsey Dunn and Cabby Richards, hosting Off the Roster over on the Nation Network YouTube channel. Everybody should be checking that out and subscribing to that channel. But they said it's hard to go into a rebuild or want to rebuild or retool or tank this season effectively, I think is what it was, is tank out this season. If Toronto doesn't own its 2026 first-round pick. To anybody who is new here or to anybody who's unfamiliar or not sure how it works, the Maple Leafs currently do not have their first-round pick this year, but in the event that they get a top 5 pick, they get to keep it. It is top 5 protected. They get to keep that top 5 pick if they get in the top 5. So point that out for people.
Last thing, and I'll let you go. I'm just curious on what your thoughts on Chris Tanev, like with his age, and I know he's not playing the rest of the year, and I know he's still got, I think, 4 more years on his contract. Would you move off of him going forward, like for next year, and maybe eat some of that contract? Or what would you do with him? I know he's a good player, but we're clearly looking to get younger. So what are your thoughts on what you do with him?
I don't know. I mean, you're not going to trade him for anything this year because he can't move, given the fact that he's just not going to play. Like, nobody's going to take that on for this year. You're basically just going to be moving off the piece to move off the piece. I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to say the season is drastically different if it's the case, but if Chris Tanev is healthy and playing, that takes 22 to 25 minutes away from other guys of play that he eats up. He can play on the penalty kill. He plays late game situations. Like we talked about that Vegas one and the conversations about who was out there for forward. Well, if Chris Tanev's out there defensively, you're in a better spot as well. He's a guy who just eats pills. He's really good defensively. He's really responsible defensively. He's a guy that would help you drastically if he was here. Not necessarily saying points-wise, but just approach to the game in your own zone. It would be a lot better to have him, and I think a healthy Chris Tanev is still going to be fine. So seeing where he's at next season, I think, is just the only way to approach it. Like, I can't offer any type of words of wisdom to you right now, Mark, on that one, other than see where he is in the summer and what happens. Like, DizK says Tanev is their most important player if he's healthy, but that's the problem. That's the thing. I would agree with that. And I mean, to Tanev's defense, it's twofold. One is he's a guy who deals with injuries a lot.
Yeah.
That is
we knew
that's something you gotta that's something you just have to manage. But to his defense, the Leafs, we heard they fired the director of sports science. Everybody on the everybody on the Leafs team right now is dealing with injuries in some capacity. You're seeing guys slow down their play, drop off, missing games. Like, this has been the most injury-riddled season we've seen in the Matthews era. I don't think it changes them and makes them an unreal team, but that is a conversation that's happening right now around the team. And you have a guy who deals with injuries, is getting older, and you took away your director of sports science who could mitigate some of that disaster. Like, I don't think this is all entirely on him. So that's another thing that I look at when with Tanev, and maybe they get a guy in here to help lead the charge on how you treat players and how you manage injuries and health risks and all that kind of stuff. And then maybe that can help him be in a better place for next season. But I don't see it being a contract that you're just like getting off of.
Hey, Zach, thanks for the call. I'm sure I'll call in Monday night. It's 2-1 Edmonton still in the first period in case anybody wants to know.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Have a good
Thanks
night.
for the call. Thanks. You too. There you go. Mark from Oshawa on the call. Appreciate that. Sens fan pissed off in the chat that I said the Leafs have the best fan base. I think that's rich coming from Sens fans. I mean, the last I checked, their building doesn't even fill. And, on top of that, whenever any other opposing market comes to town, they kind of just get bodied. It was like a home game for the Canadians when they played there. It was like a home game for the Leafs when they play there. So, yeah, that's it's interesting comments coming from Frank D. Sens fan. Anyways, next caller on the line. Let's welcome into the program Mando. Mando, what's up?
Hey, Zach. How's it going?
It's good, man. How about you?
Not bad. Again, full disclosure, didn't watch the whole game. I just, kept tabs on the score, and when it got close in the third, I turned it on just to say, yeah, let's see what's going on. And I always like, regardless of who's playing, I love watching overtime because it's just so crazy. It's crazy hockey, pretty exciting stuff. So I watched it, but yeah, I don't need to talk about this game at all. Just in generality, what I wanted to talk about is, if you look, I'm just looking through who won the Stanley Cup in the Matthews era, and some of the key things, characteristics, and what I'm seeing is they all had really good defensemen and defensemen that they drafted, right? You look at, for example, well, let's look at the Avalanche, right? They have Cale Makar, and they have Devon Taves. Both are basically superstars, right? You look at even the Golden Knights, Alex Petrangelo, Alec Martinez, both Cup winners previously. Shea Theodore, McNabb, Whiteclaw. I mean, these guys can all play in like top pairings on other teams, right? And then obviously you have the Lightning. They have Hedman. They had who else did they have? I mean, each of these teams have great defensemen, at least one, better so two. And I'm looking at what the Leafs have, and we have Morgan Riley, and it's been a complete disaster. I mean, he's the Leafs drafted defenseman, and everybody else is just trying to fill holes. And what I'm worried about, we're talking about OEL being a good trade pick, but what are we gonna? How's this team gonna build an NHL defense core next year? Like I'm just wondering, like what's left here? We talked about Tanev being injury prone. What does his career look like? Is it another Jay Muzzin situation?
Yeah.
What's McCabe gonna look like next year? It looks like he's running out of gas. McCabe is key to all of this. And then it takes many more years to develop NHL caliber defensemen, right? We've got Villeneuve. We don't know, he hasn't even gotten a sniff in the NHL, right? And then we have Ben Danford, which At best, he may show up in the NHL in 3 years. And guess what? Matthews era is going to be done by then. So I don't know. I don't know what you think about this decor, but it looks bleak. Like what? How are they going to fill the roster if they move off from OEL? If the Tanev situation is unclear, I don't know.
You,
That's kind of my take.
you have to rely on your pro scouts and hope that they can identify players that you can buy cheap on and be guys who can fill voids and fill roles and step up and play beyond what they've played at previously, which I know is asking for a lot, but I look at teams like Florida who identified Gustav Forsling. I look at teams like I look at teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning, who just continue to find guys, these random pieces, young guys, and fit them into their roster. The Colorado Avalanche went out and got Shea Theodore. Like, it might be time for you to go out and find somebody that your pro scouts identify on another team who can be really good here in your system. In terms of the conversation of like getting a number one, yeah, I don't know. That's going to be extremely, extremely hard. I'm not going to beat around the bush on that. I don't know who it is. I don't know how you go and get the guy. I don't know where you find him. I don't even think you have the pieces to get the piece back if you can find the guy and he is available. So building a good decor, I think, is possible. Getting the guy, I think is really, really, really hard. And I think that is going to be a tough thing for the team to do, especially come this summer. So I get it, but I don't think it's as hard. I know I'm just saying this to make it sound easy. I'm not like, that's not the point of this, but like, I don't think it's that hard to build a decent decor. You're just not going to have the guy, I don't think.
One thing I was
You're right.
thinking, one thing I was thinking of is you probably remember is probably like I think 3 or 4 years ago when Chikrin was still in Arizona, and there was talk that he was going to move, and obviously he did move, but there was talk that Toronto should have picked him up. In hindsight, he would have been perfect because he's got a big shot. He's defensively decent and offensively awesome. I mean, he would have been. I think Dubas made a big mistake not trying to get that guy. And Chikrin's moved around. I think he has some health problems occasionally, but I think it's settled down for the most part. He's playing in Washington for most of the season, I believe. So, these type of things, and I still go back to the expansion draft. How the hell they protected Justin Hall, and they lost McCann that way. It's just haunting me. Like, McCann would have been a great piece to still have, in top six. And I think Justin Hall is playing in the AHL now. So, it's just hindsight's 2020, right? But I mean, you look at this core. Who do you move off of? You can't. I mean, everyone's got a no move clause. Matthews, Nylander, John Tavares. People are saying move off him, but why? I mean, he's at a pretty small cap hit. What John Tavares needs is a lesser role. He needs to maybe move to the wing. He just needs a break. I mean, the man looks like he's tired, to be honest. That's
Yeah, he does.
But he's an effective player. Like you saw him in overtime. He almost like did it, did it by himself. He went right through everybody, almost scored. Like he looks good. But he just doesn't have it sometimes. But but he's very skilled, and the way he can hang on to pucks and everything like that. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be very interesting. I'm not looking forward to the games because, like you said, they're kind of like it's almost like preseason games now. They're kind of meaningless. It's really what is the management going to do? Is they're going to get are they going to get a brand new management? What moves can they make? Will they make? Can they do a Houdini and kind of save the rest of Auston Matthews era? We'll just see.
Yeah, yeah, the John Tavares thing, he definitely needs to move down in the lineup. he looks tired. He looks like he's burnt out from the scheduling of this season and the fact that when Matthews was out, when Nylander was out, he was the one who was carrying the load. He did an unbelievable job of providing offense and leadership and some quality play in that period of time. So kudos to him, but you could tell it took a chunk out of him. Like, you can tell that for sure impacted him and impacted how the rest of his season is going to go and has gone, over the last month or so here. It just looks like he's lost a step. And I don't think that that's necessarily something we need to panic about as Leafs Nation, about JT in general. He's a guy who's very responsible and takes care of his body really well. I think that this Olympic break will help him, and I think it's something that will give him a reset for the remainder of the year. But you're 100% right. He looks gassed. He looks exhausted, and you're playing a 35-year-old John Tavares making $4-something million a year who's gassed, and having him hoping for him to just be like this quality 2C still. In the period where he was playing without Nylander, it makes it even tougher for him because he's now carrying Nyes and Michelli. And Nyes is injured. We know that. Michelli is...
he's just
knows?
Michelli.
Who knows what his future here is, but he's not a goal scorer, which means that all the goal scoring ends up kind of relying on JT to be the one to do so. So a lot of pressure got put on him. Nylander's back. I thought he looked a little bit better here tonight. JT did. That second line in particular looked better. They looked like they had some jumps, so I credit to him. I'm not trying to shit on him at all. I don't think he's been bad. He just doesn't look like the guy who last year was like a bona fide 2C. So maybe finding a way to give him a little bit of a break, moving him down in your lineup right now is a good way to handle him and handle his minutes. But yeah, he definitely looks exhausted right now. That's 100% right.
Yeah, yep, man. It's just, it's like staring into an abyss. Like, what is this franchise? Where's this franchise go? It's like the cupboards are empty. It's unknown whether you're going to gain much. With selling again all the cast of characters that were mentioned: McCann, McMahon, Robertson, OEL. Everything but the core again, or the old, what's the remnants of the core, you call it. But what practically can they get for that, and what can they build from that? And then looking at the youth, is Quillen going to make a jump? Minton would have been handy, in the center position right now, but that ship has sailed, unfortunately. Yeah. I don't know. Well, we'll just have to wait and see what happens for the off season. I'm looking at the off season now to see how this team could recover if they still have a chance to do something.
Yeah, 6 1/3 is mad that there's negativity tonight. I mean, the team is the 9th worst team in the NHL, and you're mad that there's negativity. The team was supposed to be good, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, that's why. That's why people are frustrated. Newsflash there. Also, yeah, I also want to touch on the Chychrun point you brought up. I know it was a little bit earlier here, but I want to touch on that. Obviously, Jacob Chychrun is with Washington. Like, you're not getting him. But when I say you got to identify players, those are the types of guys that you need to find. Like, those are the types of players that you need to find on some organization who might not be in the best position, might not be in the best team, which I know you're not right now either, but maybe somebody who needs a change of scenery, somebody who you think could play top 4 minutes and kind of fit in if they get the right opportunity or whatever it may be. Like, Chychrun got run out by Sens fans. Like, they were furious. They ran him out of town in Ottawa. He didn't want to be there either. The team wasn't very good, so he goes to Washington. Now Sens fans hate Jensen. They're trying to run Jensen out of town. And the Washington Capitals have a defenseman who was legitimately in the conversation to play at the Olympics for Team Canada. So those are the kinds of pieces you might need to try to find. Trying to find a swap with somebody. Hey, we've got this piece who needs a new scenery. You need a guy, or you've got a guy who needs a change of scenery. So you try to find those kinds of guys to come in here that it's not going to be having to go above and beyond, because I just don't think you're capable of going and finding the pieces within your own cupboards to make a trade for like a Zach Werenski type of thing. I don't think they have that. So you got to look to the next tier down and start to find what you can identify across the NHL to bring in here. But that's a good point about what Washington identified with Chychrun and said, hey, we got to go get him.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the Leafs haven't drafted a bona fide top D-man forever. Like, I can't remember. Phaneuf wasn't drafted. I can't. I don't know. Boreas Allman, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe there's others. I'm sure, but I just my memory doesn't serve. But these organizations that win cups, man, they have like superstar defensemen. At least one of them.
Yeah.
All of them have that, and that's something I think is going to be the Achilles heel here, and that they have to figure out. We kind of had it last year, but it's just kind of fell apart. It was kind of held up by white glue. The defenseman, it worked last year. They were really good, but this year just fell apart. You lose Tanev, and then everything goes to shit. You can't. It's got to be a more robust decor build that they have to figure out. So.
Yep.
I think I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Mando. Appreciate the call. I mean, I don't really disagree with you. You got to find the guy. I can't I can't even think about who the guy is that you'd go find. And unfortunately, right now, in terms of picks, you just don't have it. That's why I think getting yourself into the top 5 is paramount this season to draft up there. You can look at McKenna, you can look at Stenberg. Those are amazing players that should get drafted extremely high. But maybe the right fit for the Maple Leafs is drafting a guy like Keaton Verhoff in the top 5. Like, maybe it's finding a guy like that who can be your big stud defenseman in the future. Maybe it's not next season, but maybe he jumps in the year after that. Like, who knows? Like, maybe that's the kind of guy that you've got to have, but you have to get yourself a top 5 pick to get it, Mando. And I think that's the only option you're gonna have if you want to find the guy, because otherwise it's not gonna happen for a couple of years. You don't have your pick this year, you don't have your pick next year. If you do get your pick this year, it forfeits this first round pick to 2028 to the Boston Bruins then. So you're just looking at a bunch of years with no first round picks. You're not gonna find that super talented elite defenseman in the top that you could have otherwise. Just, he's not there. He's not there. So he's not there in the second rounds is what I'm trying to say. But he could be in the top 5, and that's the only way that you can do it. So that's the approach you got to take, Mando.
I agree. Thanks for having me tonight.
All right. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it.
No problem.
There you go. Mando on the line. We got more callers to get to. We've also got some housekeeping stuff to do here on the show. I don't think tonight's will be overly long, but we definitely will continue to break down everything happening. I know a lot of callers want to talk about future stuff with this team, so I'm willing to hear all of that. Quickly as well in the chat, Ambrose Morgan, Riley got benched. No, he didn't. He got hurt. Meg says, agreed, Zach. Glad you finally said it. Verhoff would be a beast to complement Danford moving forward. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Drafting the best player available is one thing at position 1. If you get the first overall pick, I think it's extremely hard to not draft Gavin McKenna. But if you get to 2, 3, 4, 5, and a Keaton Verhoff is sitting there in that spot, I think that's when it's okay, this is a really interesting conversation that we have to have, because maybe it's time we go out and get that defenseman. Maybe it's time we draft that stud. They chose to draft Mitch Marner, and in that draft, Noah Hannafin was there. I think Provorov was there. I believe Werenski was there as well. And instead, they chose Mitch Marner. You built up a group of Nylander, Marner, and Matthews, And you still spent the rest of the time looking for some type of D-man, some type of stud D-man. And you also refused to trade the guys that you had. You refused to trade any of those three. I would never have traded Matthews myself, but I would have looked to move one of Nylander or Marner if you could have found some top-end, high-end defenseman that you could have got to come here, because you needed to build things out. You needed your top-end forwards. You needed a top-end defenseman. You needed your top-end goaltenders, and you just never had it on the defensive side. You had some shaky stuff in net, but in front of them defensively, it wasn't like the best in the world either. It was time to change things, and maybe this is an opportunity to do so if you can get into the top 5. Getting to other stuff that we've got, I do see there is a caller here waiting, so we're going to get to the next caller here in a moment. But before we do, I just want to remind people today's show, as always, is a presentation of Bet365. Use promo code NATION. That's NATION, code NATION, NATION. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connectsontario.ca. Reminder, that's NATION, code NATION. Best bet tonight was William Nylander, anytime goal. I thought he had a couple really good chances. I thought he had one late in the third period he could have had. I thought he had one in overtime he could have had. So wish that we got that Nylander best bet through. It was a full unit here tonight that loses $100, so we're down 1.2 units on the season, 120. It's been a turbulent season for us here this year, but hopefully we can close out the rest of the year with wins. Like, if we can just add wins and come out financially on top, and this team can get to bottom 5, I'll call this a successful season. I'll call it a successful season. That wasn't the goal, but if you can do that, it's somewhat of a success. All right, next caller on the line. Let's welcome to the program Scott Thompson. Scott, what's up?
How's it going, Zach? I just had to call in that one guy, Frank. He's really pissing me off tonight. I think out of all the opposing fan base accounts, he's got to be the worst.
I know. We always have respectful fans call into the show. Anonymous Canes fan. Who else? We had Nick from Columbus called in. I've had, I think it was PSW1 called in earlier, and even he was respectful to everybody. And now we just got Frank D, who's losing his shit here in the chat. He's losing his shit in the chat. I mean, he's saying Leafs fans bully John Klingberg. And I can't believe we're gripping to that right now. So yeah, he's having himself a day in the chat right now. I can see that taking place.
Yeah, don't get me started on John Klingberg. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was trying to type them, but my messages kept getting blocked or something. So I just had to come on, say my piece. I missed the last 2 streams, though. I'm curious. So are you part of Team Tank Nation now?
Yeah, but it's because you need to win too many games to get into a playoff spot, and your margin for error is like this. Your margin for error is minimal. You basically need to win, I think it's 19 of 27 here now, so you can go 19 and 8 to close out the season. To get yourself into enough points, that is, to make the playoffs. That's usually the cutoff, I think, is 95 points. So that gets you to that benchmark, which is what you're supposed to be at to make the playoffs. But you also need Buffalo and Boston and Montreal to slow down ahead of you. And I'm not so sure that they're going to do that. They win every night. They pick up points every night. Even when they lose, they're in overtime, or shootouts. They just constantly pick up points. So do you think that this team, Scott, I'll ask you this. Do you think this team is good enough to win 19 of their last 27 games?
If you had asked me this question 3 hours ago, I would have said no. But something happened during this game that has given me a glimmer of hope. And that is the injury of Morgan Rielly. Zach, if there's one thing that could turn around this season, I think it's Morgan Rielly finally in the press box. Everybody in the chat was so happy when it happened, and we noticed right away they're zipping the puck around. it's like the guys sort of look to each other on the bench. They're like, guys, it finally happened.
So you think because Morgan Rielly is injured, this team can turn it around and win?
I think that there's just some delusional piece of me as a Leafs fan that needs to find some way to believe. And right now, this is it. And it could very easily go away in the next 2 games. But for now, that's what I'm holding on to, Zach.
Okay, one sec. Let me find something. What is Morgan Rielly's, or what is the team's record? What is the Maple Leafs record when Morgan, sorry, I'm doing this live on air, Rielly is out of the lineup? All right, let's see what we can get. I want to find this out because I believe they are better without him. 2022, 2023, since then. Oh, okay. All time since Rielly's NHL debut, they are 46, 21, and 7 record without Morgan Rielly in the lineup. In recent seasons, to give you a better example, recently, since 2022, 2023, they are 22, 5, and 1 without him in the lineup. And between January 2023 to January 2026, they are 10, 3, and 0 in games he's missed. So
the numbers don't lie.
the numbers don't lie. Maybe, just maybe, it does. I mean, look, I said it earlier, like, he went down and left the game. The Leafs PR tweet came out that he was leaving, and I got a text right away and said, guaranteed win incoming. They won. So maybe 22, 5, and 1 without Rielly. If he misses the rest of the season, what did I say? There's 27 games left. So that's a 28 game sample, 22, 5, and 1. But if he doesn't play the rest and they put up that same record as they've done without him in the lineup, then they'll be in the playoffs. So maybe.
Yeah, and I was trying to look back to see how he got injured. I couldn't find it.
I couldn't
seemed
find it
like
either.
right after that last goal, he was sort of wincing after the last goal, and he was just done. Like, I was trying to find the clip. I wanted to rewatch it a few times. I was debating getting the jersey of the guy who injured him, but it seems like he got injured doing
that's
something.
a lot. That's aggressive. That's aggressive. But, I mean, look, man, I get it. And he's having a tough season. He's having a tough go of it. He's not been good here for a while. And we've all been saying he needs to be sat and have minutes taken away. I was watching this game before he got injured, and I kept thinking, like, this is a guy who's playing himself into the press box. -2 in 12 minutes played tonight. And then off he goes with an injury, and the team comes back and wins. Maybe there's something to it.
Maybe there is. Well, other than that, I don't have much to say. But yeah, that's my last glimmer of hope. So do with it
Fair
what
enough.
you will.
Fair enough. I will just say to you, like, genuinely, the conversation about do they get in team tank or team push, the problem that you end up with, and I think this is where you need to just make this decision, is the hill you have to climb, because 6 1/3 is pissed. He's like, it's hard, so you quit. I'm like, Jesus, this guy's just furious about this. That's not what I'm saying. The point is, if you try to get there and you end up falling short and you end up one spot out of the playoffs, then you give Boston your pick. So you miss playoffs for nothing. And if that's the case, you've probably kept guys that could have gotten you returns. You've kept McMahon. You've kept OEL. You've kept Carlo and Lawton and McKay. And I'm not saying every single one of them gets traded, but you've decided not to trade them if you're making a push for it. So, I mean, I don't want to get no pick and not have gotten any assets back. Like, that's where I don't want this team to end up. I want them to be good again next year. I want to see them try to bounce back and retool. And if you just hang on to guys, miss the playoffs, don't get picks back, and give your pick to Boston in the process, like, it goes from a failed season to a catastrophically failed season. You know, like you didn't just fail your class and you have to take it again. You actually have gotten kicked out of the school because of how bad this has been, and now it's on your transcript and you can't get in anywhere else. That's how bad this would be if they have that happen this year. I think that if you were like 4 points out, 5 points out, okay, yeah, different conversation. I'm not really in love with it, but hey, maybe you just keep the guys you have. You don't make any trades. You don't add the guys or add any guys. You just hang on to them, see where you're at, and if you make the playoffs, if not, okay, it is what it is. You're sitting 9th last in the NHL right now with a huge hill to climb. Even if you put on a tear and you end up going 17-10 to close the year, 18-9, you could still miss the playoffs. And that's what scares the shit out of me. So I would rather go right the opposite way and get myself into a bottom 5 and get a top 5 pick, because otherwise, like, this is a full-blown failure of a year.
No, I get that. It's sort of like what they want in the short term versus what they need in the long term. Because you're right. If we put it together a little bit at the back end here, they're going to say to themselves, well, hey, we would have made it. We would have done better without all these injuries. And it just gives them an excuse to not do what they need to do to make sure that the next 10 years aren't another fucking shit show.
Yeah. And you're playing Calgary and Edmonton. If you lose one of those games, like, you snapped a 6-game losing streak here tonight in this win against Vancouver, but you will have lost so much over the last month and a half that it's just like, how can you justify anything about this group? Like, how can you justify anything that's happening here to say, hey, the answer's in the room, we got this? I don't think it's there. And unless you're going to get your Mikko Rantanen or type of player, I'm not saying Mikko Rantanen himself, but that type of player, like, this is not salvageable, in my opinion. And the only way you get that kind of guy is by trading that kind of guy, which means you're basically swapping in and out, like a Nylander for that kind of guy or a Matthews for that kind of guy. And outside of those two, there's not really anybody else on this team who can bring you anything back like that. Like, the way you get other pieces would be lesser guys, and it would be trading your Nyes and trading Cowens and Danfords and picks that you don't really have right now. So that would have to be the approach that you take. But I don't know. It's team tank for me, Scott. It's team tank for me.
All right. Well, we'll see how long I can last in team delusional over here. But
well,
I'm sure I'll eventually, and I'll be on your team. But we'll see.
Okay. I mean, look, I'm not trying to discourage any Leafs fans from cheering for the team and being happy that they win. I get it. You want to see your favorite team win. I also want to see my favorite team win. I'm just thinking about what's best for this team in the summer, into next year, whatever. And winning games and falling short of playoffs is not good for this team. Rather lose the games. That's just kind of where I'm at. And I think you're too far away from a playoff spot. So that's why I look at this and say it's tank season. It's tank time. Scott, did I got you?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just thinking it's split me in two, Zach, because I was watching this game. I was chatting with Max and Tammy and whatnot while watching the game, and we're all laughing at them. We're all saying we want the Canucks to beat them. But then once Morgan Rielly, it's shifted something in me, Zach, and now I want to believe again. But then the facts, they come at me, and then I'm like, no, they should tank. It's like this back and forth in my brain. I don't really know what to choose, and at this point, I think I'm just going to accept whatever happens.
Fair. I think the comments from Elliott tonight were positive, in my opinion. The fact that they've already started conversations on selling and they're preparing to start selling here. So that's where I stand. Look, if you sell pieces off, I will say, obviously, Team Tank is the best situation for this group. There's just no way around this because you trade pieces off, you get assets back, you could potentially get a top 5 pick and a guy that can significantly help your team very soon. Like, that's the best case scenario. The thing for me that I would accept is if you trade pieces, you get rid of your expiring contracts, you get rid of your Bobby McMahons and Simone Benoit's and Nick Waz or whatever, and you get assets back. Scott Laughton, if he has to go, you get assets back. And whether that's young guys, younger skilled guys, if that's picks, whatever. I don't know who would go and what the packages would be, because depending on your package, and if you eat salary and you eat contracts, whatever, it can help make that package coming back be better and be more valuable. If you do that and the team ends up going on a run and being good and competitive for the rest of this season, I don't think I'm going to be mad about it. I've said numerous times on the record that I think there's enough talent on this roster to just not be a bottom 5 team just based on that alone, whether it's the goaltending or if it's your guys like Matthews and Nylander and Matthew Nyes if he's healthy, or John Tavares if he gets rested. Like, there's enough talent here, even in Nick Robertson and Easton Cowan, for you to win games. And if that's around, it might make it hard to get into that bottom 5. So if you bring other pieces in that you go, oh wow, these guys can actually play, or you find kids in the Marlies and they jump up and they play, then okay, it is what it is. I will let it be. I'm not going to be mad about that, but still the preference would be top 5 pick.
Yeah, I think I figured it out finally, Zach. I think
Let's hear it.
My brain is team tank, but my heart is delusional.
Okay.
And my brain is telling me, like, in terms of Auston Matthews as his era, if we're going to save this era, we probably need to tank and retool. That's sort of what I'm realizing when I'm listening to you talk and I'm really thinking about it. I think the best chance to save the Auston Matthews era is to retool now.
If he is committed to being here and is willing to have a season, the rest of this season, just tank off and get to a better spot, and you want to have a future with him and or Nylander, it could be one or the other or both. If you are committed to that and you want to be competitive soon, I do think retooling is the best option. I think that if you try to patchwork your way through this thing, you just hurt it even more and never give him a chance to win while he's here. Getting yourself assets for the pieces you have gets you set up at least much better for the next couple of years. And to people who are saying in the chat right now, you got second and third and fourth round picks, it doesn't do anything for this Matthews and Nylander in the next 1 to 2 years because those guys aren't going to play. Not saying they are, but you stack the cupboards full, you can move picks around and maybe find a way to get yourself up into the draft. Maybe you find a way into the first round with moving different pieces and trading assets to guys. Maybe you find a way to move your second and third round picks for other players that have value on other teams, and you find your Jacob Chikrin's and that kind of stuff. Like, that's where you can start to look around at and see, okay, maybe there's a future here, but you just have to get assets into your cupboards first and foremost because you just don't have right now. I mean, like, I see there's a lot of people in the chat who are all over the place. Tanner Morris, you can't retool with decreasing value of players. Who here is decreasing right now? OEL is fine. McMahon is fine. Those are guys that can bring assets back. Brandon Carlo has played better since he returned from his injury. When he doesn't play with Morgan Riley, he's better. Other teams out there will look for those kinds of things. And by the way, if you eat salary, you can get more back. But anyways, Scott, is there anything else you got for me?
No, just to address the people in the chat, I get what they're saying, like not wanting to retool. But guys, we don't have time for another rebuild with the Matthews era. Like, we don't have time for that. And it's not working now, so what do you want to do? Like, it's a tough situation, and honestly, I think it all is going to fall into the hands of Brad Treliving and what he's able to do and the moves he's able to make.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think he's the right guy to do it, but it doesn't seem like MLS is going to be willing to move off of him.
Yep.
All right, Scott. Thank you for the call tonight, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good talking to you, Zach. See you later.
Good talking to you as well. There you go, Scott Thompson. We've got another caller on the line here. I'm excited to hear from him. He called in the other day for the first time ever, and I've basically spent like the last 5 days since it was that he called in, trying to figure out who this guy was and scratching my brain to determine what he did in Carolina, because he threw some nuggets out there. But let's welcome to the program anonymous Canes fan back on Leafs Nation After Dark.
Yeah, it's I'm Eric Tulsky. So no, thanks for having me on. But first, I saw somebody in the chat say that the Canes would give up a first for OEL. Honestly, I think we have 8 defensemen right now. I don't think we'd be willing to do that.
I didn't see that, but I disagree with them as well. I didn't see that.
No, it was, I'm not going to give them any spotlight right now. Fair. Yeah, they made that comment, so I wanted to address that. Okay. But yeah, what I wanted to bring up, and I think it's kind of loaded, so let me just set some groundwork. Okay. I say we as American people, we see the outfits as kind of a glorified thing. Like, look at their style, look at how cool they look, how fashionable they are. What's the fans' take on that? Like, what's the blue collar fan? How do they view guys showing up in pink puffy coats and I think this kind of goes for everyone in the league, but it feels like Toronto does have more of a spotlight put on them. Yeah. So what is your take on that? How do you feel? I know it doesn't help when it's accompanied with a loss, but what do you feel about it?
Okay, so have you ever seen Step Brothers?
Yes.
For anybody in the chat, hopefully you've seen this as well. Otherwise, this might not land the same. But you know when they go for the interview with, I think it's Seth Rogen, in the office, and they're wearing suits or tuxedos to be janitors? And It's like, oh, this is awesome. You guys showed up in tuxedos. You're funny. You guys, I can shoot the shit with you guys. That's what happens when the Leafs show up in those uniforms and their outfits pregame and the team's winning. And they're playing really well. And Matthews is potting 2-3. Nylander's lighting it up, scoring OT winners. Everyone's like, This is cool. The tuxedos are hilarious. You guys are funny. We enjoy this. And then in Step Brothers, for those who don't know the scene, I don't know if it was Will Ferrell or John C. Reilly, they rip a fart. And Seth Rogen, he can't even breathe anymore. And he turns to them and he says, on second thought, the tuxedos are kind of fucked up. Get out of my office. And he doesn't give them the job. That is what it's like for Leafs fans watching them walk in like that right now. If they're winning and things are good, who the fuck cares? That's awesome. Show your style. You show up and you play every night. It's fun. It's fun to cheer for. It's fun to watch. And these guys have swagger. And then when they lose and they're sitting in the press box wearing wife beaters and, carrying their Merces into the building every night, it feels a little bit fucked up. It has nothing to do with what they do on the ice. Let's call it what it is. Nobody is shitting on Mikhail Sergachev for the outfits he shows up in, or David Pasternak, and maybe they aren't as over the top as what the Leafs guys show up in. Maybe they're also just not as publicized as much, but it has nothing to do with what they do on the ice, and those guys wear very similar things. There's probably numerous other players in the league who also dress that way. I'm just not naming off the top of my head right now. But
Asta's pretty crazy with his wardrobe. Some of the things he pulls out, I don't think anybody else could pull off.
They wear some crazy shit. It is what it is. I personally don't really care that much about what they wear into the arena. It really doesn't bother me. But I do think that it is a little bit annoying seeing them show up in some of the games where they've got these crazy outfits and stuff, and then they go on the ice and they just don't show up for the game. And it's like, man, it does feel like you showed up more caring about the outfit and put more thought into that than what the fuck you were going to do on the ice tonight. Personally, I don't know. I think every player should show their fashion and all that kind of stuff off. I just don't give a shit what they wear into the arena. I think it's better for the game if they wear that kind of stuff in. But if it becomes more for them about caring about themselves and what they wear and how they play and their points and not about the team, then yes, that's a problem. So that's a mucky way of answering your question. I just personally don't really care. It does get a little bit annoying when they walk in with that stuff like this right now and the team doesn't win, because I'm just like, dude, what the hell are you doing? But personally, I just don't really care that much.
That's fair, and that's a great analogy by you, the Step Brothers reference. I think it's a fair point. It's hard to imagine, like a McKinnon or a McDavid, or even looking back on like Taves, other captains around the league showing up and that kind of thing. And I think that's where it ties into this next conversation I wanted to touch on, which is you kind of have a perfect, what is it, like a contrast between the Lamoriello era, and now, where it's no beards, suits, shave, like it's,
yeah.
To me, and again, I'm not in the market, so I don't know how much this actually factors in or if it matters at all. But I feel like the middle ground, like you got to find somewhere in between where there is structure and it's not just guys kind of operating on their own schedule. Like I feel like the teams around the league with success, I don't know, it's a little more buttoned down. I feel like Rosie right now with with some of these arguments.
No, but I understand.
I think
what you're
you
saying.
need some of that, right?
Yeah. I do think you do need some of that. I brought up the example a couple of times where, because people are always like, "What are you going to do? You're going to scratch the guy who makes $13 million?" And I'm like, "No, you're not. I'm not saying scratch Nylander or scratch Matthews, whatever, but." There are times where something doesn't get bought into or mistakes are made and then they compound. And I look at what happened with the Islanders, I think it was last Sunday, so about a week ago here to this point, where Patrick Waugh benched Matthew Barzal and I think Anders Lee for 10 minutes in that third period honestly, I might be getting this fact of that one wrong. It might not be in the third period, but he benched them for 10 minutes because they didn't back check on a shift and there was a goal. Apparently it was a conversation that he had with those guys and said, hey, we got to commit to this kind of stuff. And then he said after the game, like, you don't back check, you're not going to play because that stuff's important. And I might sound like a broken record on this a little bit, but Barry Trotz got to Washington and he told all those guys, we're going to play this way. And if you're not going to play this way, you're not going to play at all. And we saw Ovi get benched. How many times would you wake up in the morning if you didn't watch it live and there would be a camera cut and be like, Washington losing in this game, and then they would show the camera and it was like Ovi stapled to the middle of the bench, and it was because he gave up on a play, he half-assed something, he didn't back check hard. And I'm not trying to say that Ovi's like some lazy, don't give a fuck player. He very clearly gives a fuck, but he wasn't playing the way that Barry Trotz was trying to explain to them, this is how we're going to have success. And then he sat them. It sends a message to the player and gets it through their head, but it also sends a message to the rest of the guys like there's an element of accountability. And I know that's a very specific in-game example I'm talking about with him and with Waugh and the Islanders, but like off ice, we heard about Matthew Barzal getting scratched for that game because he missed the morning meeting. I think his alarm didn't go, so he didn't show up. Then you talk about the team aspect and getting these guys to buy in and having things be super team oriented. It does feel like that's something that's just been lost here amongst these guys for a long time, where it was always just clicky, get what you want, it's all about you. Get your money. You know, Kyle Dubas said we can and we will pay these guys and they will be here and everything. Like, everything they ever wanted, they just got, and it's kind of just been that way the whole time. There does for sure need to be a middle ground between, like, have your personality, be creative, do the offensive things that you do where you just go around and make chaos happen in a beautiful way because of how amazing you are in the offensive zone. And at the same time, button things up here and understand, hey, maybe not every time you get out to the blue line, you can go cross ice, no look passes and stuff like that. Like, there just does need to be that cleaned up version of what's going on where you don't want to eliminate creativity, but you want to make sure guys are bought in to a team element of things. So I agree with you. There should be a middle ground on this.
Yeah. And the two examples you gave, Ovi and Barzal, that's their captain. Is Barzal's captain, right?
Anders Lee is the captain.
Anders Lee's okay. So maybe not him, but even if Ovi doesn't have the captain, I think.
But Anders Lee got benched, by the way, in that game. He obviously, it was Barzal who got scratched because of the phone, but he got benched.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, as well. Both of them did, yeah.
I didn't see that, but that sends a message to me. Like, if I'm winger on the third line and I see my captain benched or the top players being benched for mistakes, I'm not going to go out there and like, you need to lead by example. I think it's pretty evident when the leader's going, the captain's cooking, the rest of the team is chugging along. They bring them into the fight. And something this is something Jordan Stahl said a few games ago. I know I'm bringing this to Carolina, so this is quick though.
All good, man. Go ahead.
I'm trying to remember which loss it was. It was a bad loss. We got shelled. And it was kind of in the middle of a heater. And he just straight up said to media, yeah, we thought because of where they were in the standings, this would be an easy one. And we didn't work hard enough.
Yeah. We showed up and thought that because we were the Carolina Hurricanes, we would win. Right.
And, maybe that was him falling on the grenade for the rest of the team, saying, like, kind of putting it on himself too. He didn't say like the rest of the guys gave up on this one. He kind of threw himself into that as well. Like, speaking as a team, we gave up on this one because we saw where they were in the standings.
Right.
But I don't know, man. Like, I feel like we sometimes discount the impact of a good leader. And I wonder what happens this offseason, because I think if you're being honest with yourself, when they stripped Tavares of the captaincy and gave it to Matthews, but kept Tavares in the locker room on the leadership team with a letter, it's such a weird dynamic. And it's going to be interesting when the Last Dance of the Maple Leafs documentary comes out in 20 years and everybody spills just all the stories from this era, what's actually going on behind the scenes, what guys are thinking about different decisions like that. But yeah, to me, that when that happened, it felt weird. I don't think it's had the success. Maybe was that Matthews' first 60-goal season that he got the captaincy, or which?
Second. So he wore the captaincy last year for the first year. So he had 69 going into the year that he was awarded the C.
Okay, so he had the 69. They're like, this is captain material. You're the guy now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, fair. Honestly. 69 goals is nice. And It's rare. But weird to take the captaincy from the local guy. I don't know. I felt weird about that. And I'm not even from your country. I've never been to Toronto. I looked at it and I was like, this is something doesn't feel right here. It had to have been awkward in the room, but I'm sure John was involved in those conversations too and was on board with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't a surprise and he's like caught off guard by it, but I don't know.
No, I agree. I would say too, like, I do think he's probably involved, but I think that the leadership here has just always been strange to me. There are leadership situations, and I know people always talk about not giving up and looking at the Detroit Red Wings, like what Shanahan, like that's why Shanahan was so committed to this group and committed to these guys, saying, hey, we're not going to get rid of them because we think they can win and we don't want to lose the talent we have in the room, just like his Red Wings team did. And Steve Yzerman finally broke through. And look at your example with that team, and then go to Ovi and him finally breaking through. I don't know if there's any. I think those are the two that Leafs fans usually hang on to the most and say they didn't give up and they finally won. They didn't give up, and then we watched them hoist the Stanley Cup. And I get it to an extent, but you talk about like the leadership and guys who were in the room and having voices and how weird things have been, and maybe guys not being the right leader or the captain. The other example of this, that it doesn't go the right way, is the San Jose Sharks. You loaded up on high-end talent. You had unbelievable teams there in San Jose, and they never won. And I'm sure their fans are obviously overjoyed that they got to see amazing hockey, that got to go to conference finals, to Stanley Cup finals, and they got to see them be extremely competitive and really talented. But that team was a team that had more success than these guys, and they just never won the cup either. So, like, there is examples of teams that just don't break through. It doesn't happen, no matter how committed you are to guys. And both of those guys who were involved in that San Jose team came here and were guys that were a part of this Leafs team when the guys were young. Patrick Marleau was here early on. He was a guy who was mentoring these guys, and I'm not trying to put this like loser label on them or say they don't care about winning, but they didn't break through in their career, and they were the mentors to these guys. They were the leaders to these guys. I will never forget watching that Amazon documentary in the COVID season, and they show the example of the Leafs having the meeting. I don't know if you saw that yourself or people in the chat remember it, but they had hit a skid. They weren't playing that well. Keefe calls a leadership meeting. It was like Marner, Matthews, Morgan Riley, Joe Thornton was in there. And I remember Joe Thornton basically tells Sheldon Keefe, yo, chill out. We're first in the North Division or whatever it was. It's like, those kinds of things have just seemed to carry on with this team the entire time and amongst the leadership group. I'm not blaming Thornton and Marleau, but I'm just using that as an example of like, that's a team that hung on. They never broke through. Guys from that team were part of your leadership group here and veteran voices. And now the guys you have seem very ho-hum and very, well, we lost and we'll get it next year. How many times in the postseason did they lose playoff games and they would go into front of the media and be like, well, we learned lessons, we played well, bounces didn't go our way, we'll get it next year. It's like they would answer interviews after Game 7 heartbreaking losses as if it was like a Tuesday in January against the Blue Jackets. It's like, no, it's not about, oh, we played well, we didn't get the bounces. You lost Game 7 for like the 7th consecutive year. It's time to dig deep here and get ready to go for next season. And it just felt like it was always a more lackadaisical approach. I know that doesn't really answer kind of your question. I went on a side tangent here, but just the leadership group in general has always been interesting. And it feels like they need somebody who's a dog. And it feels like they had the guy and they sent him off to Colorado. And he won a Stanley Cup in Colorado. And they had a lighter version of the guy and they let him walk for free. And now he plays on Connor McDavid's wing. So it's just been interesting to see who they've elected to keep, not keep, and target in free agencies and trades.
Yeah, that's fair. To your point about Thornton kind of confronting Keefe in that leaders meeting, I wonder if that had anything to do with his inexperience in the league as a coach. Like Thornton's, how many years had he been around at that point? 15. He's like, this dude is like, he's still new. I don't know if that's how players look at a rookie coach or a younger coach. I'm sure that you have some level of respect for who management has put in authority there. But yeah, to your point, that's when that's kind of your example, and that's kind of what's normal to you. It does make you wonder what sort of feelings the leadership group has towards Berube now, because same with Brindamore. Like, if that message is so strong until it's not, and then it's really easy to not buy into that hard work mentality, because I think the Canes see it in stretches throughout the year, where it starts to not go your way, and then that it's got to be tough to lose even after you feel like you're giving your best every night. And Berube and Brindamore seem like they're cut from the same cloth, coaching wise, maybe not systems wise, but I think I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this offseason for the Leafs, because feels like there could be a lot of change, but I also, on paper, I don't look at the group and say there needs to be a huge shakeup. It feels like there's guys there that can get the job done if you retool, but at the same time, I feel like every question you get asked tonight has been about retool or rebuild. What would you do? And it is tough right now. It's crazy looking at the situation you're in, where it's like, if you tank and you lose out the season, you gamble that pick essentially, unless you're in that top 5. But it's like Canes were in draft hell felt like 10 years, and we were always too good to be in the top 10, but too bad to be in the playoffs. So we're drafting from like 11 to 15 every year. Yeah. Like it looks like that's gonna happen again because you optically you don't want to give up when you've not put out a statement like the Rangers did. The Leafs haven't said that yet. Nyes still seems to think that there's a chance, but it's an interesting. I don't recall seeing something like this too many times, where you're scared to lose out because you gamble that pick, or I think they're too far back to catch anybody, frankly.
I think so too. That's why I would want to tank this and make the decision now and get yourself closer. But it's, even if you don't get that top 5 pick, I think making the decision to tank rather than trying to get yourself into playoff contention is smarter, because at bare minimum, you can at least get assets back. Even if you miss the playoffs and you made a push and you go above 500 and you win a bunch of games and you get yourself out of contention for the top 5, if you sell assets off, you get picks back. That's what's important here, because if you get to the end of the season and you got nothing and you don't make the playoffs and you don't get the top 5 pick, it's a colossal fuck up. It really, really is. So that's the concern that I have right now, and that's why I just want to make sure that they approach this thing intelligently, because there's no there's no reason that Edmonton, you couldn't get them to give you a first rounder on Bobby McMinn. There's no reason that they couldn't.
I'm in 2.0.
Yeah, well, like maybe they get retention on it. Maybe you trade Brandon Carlo in there on one of these deals and you hold on to some of his contract or whatever and take that down a bit more. Like, try to get picks back for this and start to get yourself in the right direction. But you got to get something. You can't just hold on to these guys, miss the playoffs, and not get anything. That is when it's a complete mess up. So, yeah, that's the position I'm in right now. Canes fan, anything else you got for me here tonight? I got a couple other people waiting, so I want to make sure I get to them.
I was gonna say, hey,
else?
maybe you send OEL to Boston and get that first back. Maybe there's something there.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna end up happening, but that's some lovely wishful thinking.
No, yeah. Aside from that, no, I didn't have too much tonight. But when I saw that comment about OEL to the Canes, I wanted to hop on and dispute that. But no, that's all. Good chatting with you again. So
great chatting with you as well.
Unless you have anything else.
No, that's it. I appreciate the call here tonight. I enjoyed the call. I think a lot of other people enjoyed the call as well. So thank you for calling in here, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Yep, you will.
All right, there you go. Canes fan, appreciate it. There you go. Anonymous Canes fan on the line. Let's do something quick here. Let's make sure, see if there were any other super chats. No, none new came in here, but we did hit 100 likes, so we got to do the smelling salts here on the post game. Every set of 50 likes, 50, 100, 150, 200. We do the smelling salts, so keep hitting that like button. We did hit 100 as well. Subscribe, Leafs Nation 401 right here on YouTube, Leafs Nation After Dark, wherever you get your podcasts. Here are the smelling salts. Oh, there you go. This guy, this Sens fan in the chat is having a day. Look, I think Brady Tkachuk is an awesome player. He's been in the league for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is his 8th year. He's going to have missed the playoffs 7 of 8. And yet, Frank D is having himself a time in the chat here, making fun of the Leafs for missing the playoffs now and having won 2 playoff series. Over that same time, the Sens made the playoffs once with Brady Tkachuk. So come on, man. Have some respect. Have some respect in the chat. Let's go quickly here. Crave the Stats is a presentation of Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app, from game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip. Every time the Leafs are playing at home, you can get these exclusive deals in Toronto only on Uber Eats. Firehouse Subs, the BOGO Brisket Hat Trick, Kibo Sushi, the BOGO California Roll, Shelby Shawarma, the BOGO Traditional Wrap. BOGO, of course, is buy one, get one before, during, and after the game. Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Crave the Stats. I want to jump into box score stuff here tonight. It was pointed out how tough of a night Morgan Rielly was having, -2 through 12:34 of gameplay here tonight. It's astonishing to me that Marshall Rafi only played 9 minutes and 40 seconds. I know that Marshall Rafi was not having his best night. Made a errant pass earlier on in the game. I think it was in the second period, where he kind of makes a no-look backhander that gets turned over and picked up in the slot by Vancouver for a good chance and a good save by Joseph Woll. And then as well, the goal that gets scored by Vancouver, where he skates back, kind of panics with the puck a little bit, like has more time, has a chance to turn back up the wall if he wants to, and instead he doesn't take a look and he fires it around the wall. It goes up the boards and turns over to Canucks players. There's 2 of them coming in. They come back down the other way, pass a little jump pass into the inside, in the middle, and they score. I mean, not the greatest night. He's a big piece of the one goal. And on top of that, he did have that other play earlier on where it was a real tough one. There was a couple shaky moments for him here tonight as well. He did recover pretty nicely, but why play the guy and play him for 9 minutes and 40 seconds? Morgan Rielly went out. You had 5 defensemen. Get him in the fucking rotation. Your team is not good. Play guys. Play guys. Like, play young guys. I don't get it. Otherwise, throughout the lineup, Max Domi, 1 goal plus 1 here tonight. 1 block shot, 1 shot on goal, so 1 for 1. 20 minutes and 8 seconds of time on ice. John Tavares, 19 minutes. He has 4 shots on goal, -1. Nick Wass scores 14 minutes. Nick Robertson, 13 minutes. Like, okay, Calle Yarncroke, 9. Steven Lorentz, 8. Sure, no problem there. Why can't you find more minutes for Nick Robertson? Why can't you find more minutes for him in this game and how well he's been playing? He was on fire tonight. Play the guy more. Nope, can't get out there. Scott Lawton, 10 minutes and 30 seconds. I 100% agree with people. Like, no special teams tonight, so that keeps him off the ice for shorthanded time. But you're just going to hold on to the guy and hope you keep him fresh for special teams? What if you don't? Get him in the game. Makes you sick. Makes me sick. As well, Nyes, 4 shots on goal, 15-33. I did think he had a decent game. Definitely playing through something. Nylander, -1, 5 shots on goal. He was engaged tonight. He was shot out of a cannon. I thought he looked good. Matthews, 7 shots on goal, 1 assist, +1. It was weird. Matthews, I thought, kind of followed along with the team, really, until the end of that first period where it was a little bit lackadaisical. I didn't think the second period was the best for the Leafs as a whole, but I thought Matthews got much better into that second period. And then the third period, I thought that I thought he looked really, really good. The team picked everything up, and I think he was one of the leading catalysts of that. Generating chances, getting shots on goal. Like, I thought Auston Matthews looked pretty good here. So, credit to him. And then obviously Joseph Woll, as we mentioned, .933 save percentage, makes 28 saves on 30 shots against. I see, Zach, now you want Berube to try to win a game. I'm not even necessarily like saying that. I just I don't get why Lawton doesn't play more. And Berube is obviously trying to make the team win. Why doesn't he play more? Why doesn't Nick Robertson play more? It's a dual thing for him. He's a younger guy who could get more experience. You won't play him more. You want that he wants to win. Berube does, and yet there's a guy who's playing well, won't play him more. I can't understand it. But here's a small insults for 100 likes here on the post-game show. There you go. Thank you for the likes. Shout out to Uber Eats. One more super chat here before we get to some more callers. This one comes in from Cass RW. Bunch of people are replying, so that's great stuff. Shout out to the Leafs Nation After Dark community here. But Cass says, I'm sorry if this sounds desperate, but can you please congratulate me for losing 43 pounds from 284 pounds? My friends not caring has had my self-esteem really low. Cass, I'm sorry to hear that. Congratulations on dropping 43 pounds. That is unbelievable. Great job to get to that point. Congrats on the hard work. I mean, look, that is an amazing accomplishment for you to decide you're going to do that and then push through to drop 43. So good on you for not giving up and keeping going and dropping 43 pounds. Okay, next caller here on the post game. Let's go to our guy, Alex A. Alex, what's up? Oh, wait a minute. Alex, try that again. What's up?
I'm good. How are you doing, Zach?
I'm all right. I accidentally left you on mute there. I'm having a fun time here reading this Sens fan who's copying pasting the same message over and over and over again because I think he's worried people aren't paying attention to him. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of Sens fans. Hey, they're doing not any better than us, so I don't know why they're even talking. Their team's kind of in shambles, I'd say. they want to say ours is, which fair, but like, hey,
Glass
like I'm looking
houses.
over there in Ottawa and just laughing. So you enjoy that, Mister. I'm not going to say your name. I don't even want to give you the attention. But other than that, Zach, I was watching the game today, and honestly, cool that we won. I didn't really want to win because I want to just tank, as you've mentioned with the other callers, and I think that's what we're gonna do. I'm just hopeful that they're actually gonna sell. I know Elliot Friedman said that they are, looking into it. So I'm really hoping that's actually gonna come to fruition because I don't think you can waste like these assets. Like OEL is never gonna have any more value than this right now. Let's be honest. Same with the McMahon, right? Like we need to try and get younger, get some speeds, get some juice injected in this lineup. We need to try and get a defenseman, which Verhoff is there. Like if we can be that bad, I would. It would be crazy if we got Verhoff. I'm just saying, like there's so many things that management needs to do. Like management's got to be so busy, and if they aren't, they should already be fired. But let alone like if they're not busy right now running the phones for that kind of stuff, they should all be fired tomorrow. Like that's what I think.
Yeah, I think we're at a point now where Brad Treliving is not going to lose his job. I don't know what happens in the summer, but I don't think Craig Berube loses his job for the rest of the season. It feels like the point to fire him came and has now gone, so it just doesn't seem like that's going to happen this year, which I think is frustrating, especially if you're going to retool this thing, because I don't want him being the guy in charge of the kids and all that kind of stuff. Like he just doesn't seem to have an interest in playing them. If he changes or if there's a mandate right now to try to win and that's why he's not playing these guys, that's one thing. But if it's not going to be, if he's not going to do that, or the mandate, if that's the case, is not going to change, then I don't understand what we're doing here. You need to see what you have of these guys. I would be looking right now to move off of pieces and start to find a way to get into that top 5 so that you can find some stud player. Maybe it's you get the first overall and you pick Stenberg or you pick McKenna. But I think if you get anywhere between like 3 to 5, you're praying that Verhoff falls to your hands, because that's the guy who can change things for you going forward.
Okay, so fair. I'm glad you mentioned that because I think this is a good scenario to bring up to you. If the Leafs fell and were able to pick between those two guys you just mentioned, would you be willing to trade like a Nylander or something to actually try and get that stud defenseman? Like if we were to pick a forward in the draft, do you know what I'm saying? Like I'm just throwing theoretical, right? Because think about it, it's a need, or it's not a need, it's required for this team for all these years. So, yeah.
So, if you pick Stenberg or McKenna, which I mean, I'm not saying it's crazy of you to ask me. I'm just saying it's hilarious that this is the conversation we're having.
We're even having this conversation, yeah.
If you pick one of those two, I think yes, you probably start to look at what you can do to get a stud defenseman, and if it takes a Nylander, if it takes a Nyes, depending on what the return is, then I think you explore those options. But I think more so you kind of almost hope that like Verhoff is there and you can take him. And if you can get Verhoff, then you're not moving on from the other guys because you still need the forwards.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I'm just saying I think the ideal pick is if we could land at like 3 or 4 and get Verhoff, but we'll wait and see. I mean, we'll see. I think after the Olympics is going to be when we start seeing like, maybe even during the Olympics, maybe we hear some trade talks, right? Because I know there's a trade freeze, but you never know, right? Maybe we get some rumors or something, or Brad just better not be doing nothing. That's what I'm saying. He better be doing something because I'm kind of frustrated with him, and as you mentioned, I don't think management's going to move off of him and Berube, which I agree both should be gone, but they just got to make sure they do the right thing, and I'm scared. I'm actually scared with the way Treliving handles these kind of things. I'm not trying to harp the guy, but dude, like, this is so important for the rest of the Leafs trajectory going in the future here that if he screws this up, it could be really catastrophic. Yeah, exactly. Wow, he took the words out of my mouth. Yes, exactly. So, hopefully the right thing happens. I mean, we'll be having this conversation here for the rest of the season. So, hopefully comes to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say again too with the tree living thing. The one thing that I think is very true is if he lasts through the trade deadline, you're not firing him in the summer. And I'm not saying that's because it's the right thing to do. I'm just saying that that's what people in Toronto should come to grips with and prepare for with Brad Treliving, regardless of what you think of him. If he is the guy who operates the trade deadline here, I can't see a world in which MLSE moves off of him. I could be wrong. It could be thrown back in my face, but if they are allowing him to be the guy who's going to run this thing, I just don't see a world where they move off him, because why would you let him run the trade deadline and then fire him and get someone new in the summer if you're going in a different direction? Like, why would that be the case? Have you not come to the conclusion here as an organization that this season isn't it and it's not going to work for you? Have you not identified that this is just not your year? Are you not prepared to reset things? Like, that's the concern that I have. And if they're thinking, hey, we can still get through this, and that's why Brad's going to have his job so he can find a way back, then I think we're fucked in general. But yeah, I just think that they're going to keep Brad as the guy going forward. I just hope that if that's the case, he can find a way to get them turned around and not start looking at like older pieces. Like, I still saw the other day that Shen was... I saw that Shen was still like a guy that was being tossed around. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
Panarin.
Shen a month ago, sure. Panarin, I still didn't know about that one, but because that would be a lot, it would be expensive. But like, Shen, okay, sure, a month ago when you were like hot and you thought you were good and you're talking about tinkering a little bit, no problem. But right now, what the fuck are we doing? How could you be looking to add any of those
Let
guys?
the kids play.
It's got to be trading, and it's got to be adding guys, adding picks and stuff, and potentially young pieces to this lineup, and not getting older or anything.
Yeah, like as example, like you were mentioning, like just with the previous caller, I believe it was the previous caller, that like just in Bruin not playing these younger kids, like realistically, like these guys got to play because we're seeing stuff like Minton and Steves in Boston, right? I'm not saying that was going to be the trajectory in Toronto with those guys, but like the fact is, like let these young guys play. Like the team's old and slow. You got to get these young guys playing. Like it's so important for their development and so important for the future of this franchise, right? Like it is so important for these pieces to be built. And like I'd rather see them trade these pieces and watch Quillen play over Calle Jarnkrok and still be bad. Because
Yeah.
I'd rather see something different. Something different. See a kid that's hungry. Like Quillen, he's gotten like no runway. And Easton Cowan didn't play tonight. You know what? Like he's made some mistakes and stuff like that, but you're telling me you're playing Calle Jarnkrok over him? Like
Yeah.
he's literally a ghost out there. Casper the ghost out there. Like it just, I don't know. It just pisses me off. Like I don't understand it. I mean, maybe there's something that we just don't know, but I highly doubt Easton Cowan would produce worse than Calle Jarnkrok. What? Because he gave up some of those turnovers in overtime the last like few weeks and stuff. He's a
Yeah.
rookie. He's gonna make those mistakes. Let him get his reps. Calle Jarnkrok don't need any more reps, dude. He's going to Sweden next year, or he's going to the Bahamas, one of the two. So I don't want to. I don't want to see him play, man. Like just I want to see young players. Like I'm sure you're in the same boat. Like you want to see these young guys get some kind of like reps and see what we got, right? Like let them make the mistakes in a bad season. There's no what you're trying to make the playoffs. No, you're not. Let these guys play. Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? You're gonna lose the game. Oh, great. There you go. We're getting closer to our top 5 pick. That's protected. So, like, to me, that's a win-win if you think about it logically, right? We're not making the playoffs, or if we do, it's like we won the lottery. Let's just or you have a higher chance of getting struck by lightning if we've actually made the playoffs. But basically, like, yeah, that's what we need to do. I think, like, realistically, and I hope Berube comes to his senses, but. I don't know. It's not been looking great for him, and I've defended him so many times. But man, like when it comes to these things, I don't get it. I scratch my head every single time looking at that lineup.
Yeah, I think the lineup decisions and the in-game decisions with Berube is the fault. I don't personally have that many issues with the way he wants to play. I do think it's conducive to like success, especially in the playoffs specifically. Maybe not so much in the regular season, but definitely when you get to the playoffs, I think it helps. The lack of willingness to adjust because of the players you had was a little bit frustrating, but they finally did. It's just the in-game decision making and the roster choices that are driving me nuts. The young guys not playing, the Calle Yarncroke overplays, not playing Lawton more in games. Not playing Robertson more in games, playing Morgan Rielly as much as you are. Those things just, they don't make sense to me. It doesn't. And I think it's time for a refresh here in Toronto. But I for sure agree. Like, let kids play. Let's see what we've got. Let's see what they could be going forward. Anything else from you here tonight, Alex?
Well, the only thing I really got to say is just tank for Verhoff and, go Leafs go, I guess. And, I'll talk to you soon, Zach, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
All right, there you go. Alex A. I got 2 more callers here, and then we'll wrap this thing up. We got to get out of here with some play of the game and grade of the game stuff. So let's go to next caller here, Maxentius Decimus. Max, how's it going?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I don't know, conflicted. I love the team. I've said this before. I want to see them win. I don't like when they lose, but when you're in a spot like this right now where it feels like the better decision for the team going forward is to lose and get the top 5, then a game like this, Max, I'm like, great, you won. I like seeing you win. I like seeing you beat Canadian teams. I like seeing you beat rival teams or whatever. But I would almost rather lose and get the pick.
Yeah, at the beginning of this game, I started the chat with saying that go Leafs go, win the game, that doesn't matter. Like, we're already out of the playoffs, so of course they're going to win. We already know that. They go through the entire game, and as the past caller said, we were just kind of crapping on them and like, go Vancouver, whatever. And the second that Morgan Rielly got hurt, we were all like, oh my God, Leafs are going to win this game.
Dude, the amount of people, whether it was online or in text messages or whatever, who all said the same thing. He leaves the game and everybody goes, we're going to win this. And then they score right away after they announce it on the broadcast and they go on and win this game. I'm like, what the fuck? How uncanny is that this guy goes out and they all of a sudden start winning?
It's just too predictable. The Leafs are too predictable, and that's why I'm not really upset right now. It's just like, I laugh at it. It's like, haha, I'm a Leafs fan. Aren't I a joke? People make fun of me all the time for cheering for this team. Great.
Yeah, I know. But it's like, that's where I come conflicted to this, Max, is like, I don't want to see the team lose. I don't like losing. It sucks. But like, it almost feels like you can take pride in this season if they lose a little bit, because then you can get yourself into a better draft position potentially and get your top 5 pick back. Because like finishing anywhere from 7 to 15, or 6 to 15, sorry, like it's not good enough. You're just going to give that pick over to Boston. So that's where I don't want them to end up. But it's like, it's a weird time to be a Leafs fan. That's for sure.
Yeah, and here's the thing where a bunch of the mainstream media keep talking about like how you shouldn't make a reaction when you're in a stressful position like this. I don't think that we should move Matthews or Nylander right now, but I do think that we really have to move Robertson, McMahon, OEL, because they're not getting any younger. They're at the peak of their career right now. We could get something back for them.
Yeah, exactly. This is the highest value OEL will have, and McMahon will have. Those are the easy ones. The conversations that you have in the summer, because you're saying Matthews and Nylander, are very different though, because it's what is your goal for the future though, Max? That's the only thing I'll say there is like, if you are going to rebuild, yes, 100%, this is the time to move them. But that's if you're rebuilding. If you're retooling and you think you can be competitive, maybe moving one, but not both is the way to do it. So that's where it's just like a tougher conversation, because this is the time where it's going to be like the most value before you start going on in the next couple of years when they get to 29, 30, 31 years old. The conversations around them change. The types of players they are change. But yeah, like this is where you have to make a decision organizationally about what you are.
I think that we let Holmberg and Steves go for nothing, and we trade Minton for Carlo, and we trade away 2 firsts. And we need some sort of bodies that are B prospects, like the Steves or the Holmbergs, to come in there when the Cowans aren't working out, when the Yarncroaks aren't working out. We screwed ourselves so much just going all in year after year after year after year. And now we have nothing, literally nothing. So, I mean, like, what do you want? Do you want to just go all in with this group and say, screw it, we're going to have like a decade or more of just losing horribly, or do we want to try and retool this team into something that could be passable as an NHL team?
Yeah. So look, this is a hard way to answer this because I know what you're saying and I don't really disagree with you. But I think that Matthews and Nylander kind of got an unfair shake at it this season with the players that were around them and the team that was around them. And I don't know what happens if they get to the playoffs with those 2 guys in particular. But my pushback to you would just be Nylander is a guy who does elevate in the playoffs. He does seem to like that style or intensity, I should say, that come with the playoffs, and he does rise. So I will give him that. Matthews would have been interesting to see what he was like for the first time away from Marner in the playoffs. And the reason I say that is because I think personally, part of why I've not been as mad at Matthews at times coming away from playoff losses, whether it was on a game-to-game basis or a series loss, Max, and maybe people disagree with me, and this is an insane take, but this is just my personal opinion, is if you look at Marner and Matthews and Nylander and Tavares and their production in the playoffs compared to each other, Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, they can more so get nullified, if you know what I mean, where they're like, they're good players, they're just not producing as much as they should be. Mitch would get to a point where he was bad. He would get to a point where he was a negative on the ice, making bad plays, doing dumb things, losing battles, getting out, like, he would do that. And
like Morgan Riley.
Yeah, I kind of feel like part of it, and maybe this is just giving excuses, it's entirely possible, but I think part of it was Matthews was having to play with a guy who was like doing the disappearing act next to him and then kind of like hurting him a little bit. Like he was basically like playing with like Max Domi out there where he's got to make up for sins of the guy beside him. And it would have been interesting. It also would be interesting to see how things go if there's a deeper team behind them and they have a better wave of attack that comes out from lines 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it's not just 1, 2 up here and 3, 4 down here, where they just don't have any counterpunch in their bottom 6 like they've had in the past. So I would be interested to see what it would look like with that, and I think that the team around them just wasn't good enough, was older, was slower, and then at the same time, those guys just didn't have their best at the right times. Matthews took him a while to get going. He's playing really well right now. Nylander's dealt with injuries. He played really well early on, fell off when he was dealing with injuries. So those guys, I just think that the team as a whole would have been better with some of the construction around them. And I don't know, like maybe I'm giving excuses and maybe I'm just kind of somehow like dismissing anything that happened in the playoffs because I know what everyone else saw. I saw the same shit, but I don't know, man. Like, if you build this team back up better, younger, faster, going into next season, and you're better prepared for the speed of a regular season than what you were this year, I think you'd be better.
Yeah, and that's why I say don't move on from Willie or Matthews or a lot of the hate that Tavares is getting right now, I really don't like it personally. We've had Michelli, Domi, and whoever else in our top 6 for how long now? And I've been saying this for a long time that Domi and Michelli are not top 6 players. Like, Michelli is technically a top 6 player, but he's not very good. So, no. And I don't want to make changes that way. I think that we need to try to move on from those contracts and try to find leverage or new younger pieces elsewhere. And I just think that we should sell high on the prospects that we have right now in Robertson and, well, I mean, McMahon is like, what, he's 29 now?
Yeah,
and
not a prospect.
Next
but
contract is going to be like $4 or $5 million. Like, if someone wants to take these players, take them. OEL, let them have it. Get some things back. We can move them in the off season if we have to. It's just we can't just roll this team back because this is probably one of the worst teams since 2014. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. You got to move off of a lot of these guys' expiring deals. Anybody at the peak, Michelli's, Domi's, those kinds of guys, start to move those pieces out and just kind of start to prepare for what you're going to do next year. I don't know, man. It's a tough spot right now. Anything else from me here tonight, Max?
Yeah, last thing I want to talk about, one of the earlier callers talked about the dress code, and I was just thinking about grapes, and, I'm a new Bills fan. I'm kind of loosely an NFL fan, and that sport is paramilitary. You're there to block a guy or catch the ball or run the ball. You do your job. You work as a team. There's a reason why certain things like that exist. I think Lou Lamoriello is too far. I think that his restrictions are too far. But when you start walking in with like a frizzy T-shirt, like it makes me lose respect for them. And I think Grapes is on my side, and I think that they need to bring that back to a certain extent. Of like, I hate wearing a suit and tie, but they should wear a suit and tie when they show up to the rink because this isn't the NBA. This isn't the NFL. This is the NHL. We have certain expectations of our players. That's my last 2 cents.
Okay. Fair enough. Look, man, I get it. I love the suits and stuff. I love the professional, like, showing up for business look. But personally, I don't think that what they wear to the games changes how they play. So I personally don't really care. Why?
You got to have no identity being in the military. You got to have no identity. You are part of a team. And I'm not saying that it's wrong for a professional athlete to have, their own identity, but it's a paramilitary thing. And I think that there needs to be a conversation about how it takes away from that unity as a team when you're starting to walk around in your own flamboyant T-shirts or whatever.
I mean, yes, I get it to an extent. I understand what you're saying about the team, like the identity and the military stuff. Like, I understand, but it's hockey. It's not the military. So personally, I just don't care. I also think it's better for the game if they grow personalities and stuff. Like,
I think you're a generation too young to really understand what I'm saying, and I'll leave you with that. Thank you for the call. Have a great night.
All right. Thanks, Max. Appreciate it. Max Entius Decimus. Let's get to our last call here of the night. Let's go to Rahul. Rahul, do I got you there? Rahul, do we got you? There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
All right. Well, I mean, I've been listening for quite a while, but I was like, hey, why don't I join in? Because I've been hearing some people throw out some ideas, but I don't know if people fully thought through how you would want to rebuild. Now, like, I have some points I just thought about over the past few weeks that I've seen the decline happen.
Okay.
Firstly, I want to start off with one of your points actually that you made, where you said you can't retool if you trade OEL, McMahon, and Robertson. And I think you can, because just because you're trading them doesn't mean you can't flip them for something that could be useful for you in the next 2 to 3 years. Because I don't think, realistically, they're going to be competitive for the next 2 years. And I mean competitive in the sense actually contending to win the cup, not making the playoffs. They'll make the playoffs. I'm not concerned about that. But if you trade, for example, this year is the perfect example. If you make a drastic change, you don't expect that change to click in right away. So if you're trading, and it's going to be pretty likely that McMahon gets traded this year. Yeah. I mean, if I was him, or if I was Tree, I would trade him because this is the best he gets. And if he's in his 27, 28, he probably has about 4 years that he's going to be at this performance. And if he's not at this performance consistently, then he's useless. Right? For a competitive team to win.
Yeah. So quickly here, I just want to jump in. I don't think I said you can't retool if you trade those guys. I think that would be a retool, and I think the retool would try to be putting you in a position to be competitive in the next couple of years. And I think that for me, the reason I'm saying that is because if you do trade OEL, which I think this is kind of where we end up back on this a similar page, but I disagree with you that it wouldn't be for 2 to 3 years, because I think if you're trading those guys, you're looking to then be competitive next year and the season after that, given the fact that you have Matthews and Nylander and those guys around. If you're going to rebuild, or if you're not going to be competitive in the next 2 to 3 years, then that's when you have to look at moving Matthews and Nylander and stuff. But for me, I think you can move those guys. I'm more talking about like Lawton. Like if you're looking at Scott Lawton, or if you're looking at this team and saying, are you going to be in a position to be competitive again next year? Scott Lawton's the kind of guy I think you want around here. And that's where I wonder, okay, if you trade him, does he want to come back? Maybe not. And I would look at him and think he's a guy that you want to have around next year. OEL is hard because you almost expect a decline. Like what you're getting from him play-wise is above what you anticipated, and this is probably his max value. Bobby McMahon, I think you're okay moving off of, because he is an older guy, as you mentioned. He's a 1996, so he'd be turning 30 this season. His value right now is super high. He's a UFA at the end of the year. You could probably get a lot for him from a contending team. So those are the kinds of guys that I would look at to move for sure, and I think they would help you retool, and that's where I lean towards retool rather than rebuild. But yeah, continue.
Okay, so I don't want to loop around the same circle. But I will say one thing, because I do want to clarify my point.
Yep.
Would you agree that Bobby McMahon is like kind of like a Nick Bonino type of player? Like, hey, he has a flash for a few limited amount of years where, hey, you know what? You could build some sort of aggressive line for 2 to 3 years, and then he just disappears, essentially. Would you agree on that?
With Bobby McMahon?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd probably say that's fair.
Okay.
Like, how much longer is his career? I don't know. I'm not trying to say it's short, but like, how much is he... how competitive is he for a long time? I don't know. How long does he do what he's doing right now? I don't know.
Yeah, but he's sort of the same style of player in the sense of, hey, his trajectory seems similar to what Nick Bonino was. Mm-hmm. Now, Bonino in his prime was really effective for that team. But once that ended, he was irrelevant. So if you trade him to a team that wants a McMahon, they're not going to give you a player that's a McMahon-like, because they're trying to win for the cup. They're going to give you something that's good for the future. Now, what I'm trying to say is, for someone like, let's say, Edmonton, I'm just throwing it out there. Let's say the Oilers you're trying to trade for. Maybe you can do like a Matthew Savoy type of trade where, hey, this guy is a good player, but he's not there yet. And his trajectory doesn't match with, for example, McDavid's, where McDavid's going to be gone the next 3 years potentially, and we can't wait or risk for it. So you could use that as a piece for you to retool for the next 3 years. I'm not saying this is exactly what I want to do, but that's where I was going with that point of view. Yep. But to move on to the next thing, I think that there's a disconnect between Tree and Berube, and the way Tree talks, I feel like he needs to put his big boy pants on and sit down with Berube and say, hey, look, this is how I view our team play. Because the players Tree calls up, for example, Quillen, hey, he's a center in your developing AHL league. Why don't you give him a chance to play in more meaningful games in the sense that, hey, you know that Machelli isn't going to be effective, I would say, throughout the entire game for most games. He has his flashes, and then you'll see him kind of regress. Why don't you then use Scotty Lawton up in that second line, and hey, wait, you have another center on your team who can play the fourth C. So you can now shelter him with Machelli and Lorentz on that fourth line. I'm not saying you have to do it for the entire game, but when you see his game regresses, you put him down the fourth, you put a worker up on that second line, and it can make Nylander and Tavares' game shine more because they excel when they have the puck. And if you're just giving away the puck all the time, what the hell are you going to do with those two guys? They suck at defense anyway.
Yeah. Yes. I also think, like, at this point, you just got to play guys, kids in general, and give them a chance and see what you have. But I do think that the first point you made is a valid one. There's a disconnect. It's not just in the players that play and don't play. Regardless of what you think about Treliving and the moves that he made and the guys he brought in, that's fair. I don't love them. I think the Carlo trade is an absolute killer, but I mean, you paid a higher price to go get Scott Lawton to be your third line center, and Berube refused to play him above the fourth line last year in the playoffs, and it never really clicked for him in general. I get it, but you just didn't get him into a third line role. He always played like 8 to 10 minutes on your fourth line and was only a penalty killer. He's a guy who's impactful at 5-on-5. Why not play him in your third line center role at 5-on-5? This season, he's been stuck on the fourth line all year. When things went sideways a little bit, rather than changing out Nick Waugh and Lawton on the third line or moving Lawton up to the second line, why not move that? That never made sense to me. You look at keeping Nick Robertson. There's a belief in him from Brad Treliving. That's why he doesn't trade him even when he asks for a trade request. He's not dumping the asset off for nothing. Keeps him in the lineup, believes in him, and all of a sudden he starts to show he can play. And yet, I mean, you look at a game like this here tonight, us as fans, I think we'd rather see them lose, but okay, Craig Berube is trying to win. Well, why is Nick Robertson playing like 12 minutes tonight? He looked awesome. Why doesn't he play more? Why can't he get 15? Why can't he get 16 tonight? Why can't you spot him into shifts and into opportunities? The Quillen thing, not playing, makes no sense to me. Why are you playing Calle Jarnkrok as much? Marshall Rafi finally gets to play. I already said it, but he didn't play that well in this one. But at the same time, how's he playing 9 minutes? Like, you're not in a competitive position. Play the guy. Like, let him get those nerves out. Let him get some confidence. Let him get his feet wet in the NHL. That was his third ever NHL game, his first of this season, and he missed a lot of the year because he had a broken wrist early on. Let the guy play. Like, give them opportunities, and I think that there's a very clear disconnect between Treliving and Berube when you're talking about those guys. And then you even saw the messaging, like, they fired Savard, and Treliving said that Lalonde is going to be running the power play, and Berube came out in the exact same day and said Lalonde is not running the power play. Like, what is going on here? It's a very, very confusing, muddy situation.
I agree with you. I mean, again, I want to put this topic to an end too, but I think that they both think that they're the ones in control, and so when you have two people who think they're the head, and nobody ever confronts the other, you're going to have the situation where you think one person wants to do this way, the other person wants to do this way, and you never, talk about it. Hey, you know what? Yeah. This is what I see this person as, so why don't we try it out and see? Like, I don't want to see the same shit for 82 games if you know it's not working, like the defense.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
to go on to that defense part then, yeah, Carlo trade was bad. We thought it could have been better. I don't think he's terrible. I just think he just plays with someone terrible, to be quite honest. and you can't really do anything about it. But you can try to use him for a better situation, where I personally think you should use him with OEL, because you're kind of auditioning both of them to get traded. And the best way to do that is if you play them with someone better. Why are you playing him with Riley when you know Riley's just a giveaway machine to begin with? So play him with OEL, see if his, value spikes, and maybe you can. Someone who was looking for a right-hand D at the start of this year is Buffalo. You might be able to trade him for Buffalo for like a Bowen Byram or something, and he'll be more useful for you than Riley. And I'm not saying you can trade Riley, but you can just suppress him in the third pairing. You have McCabe and Bowen Byram. Bowen Byram can be used for your power play. You don't know, because all the other options are useless anyway.
Yeah, if they're willing to do that, but yeah, for sure, Rahul, I would agree. Any other points you got here?
I mean, other than that, I'm just like trades you can essentially make towards that retool, right? Like, I'm thinking that Robertson does not fit in your plan moving forward, just because the centers you have for the most part are shooters. And if you have two people in a line that's shooters, that never works. Like, for someone like Nick Robertson to excel, you need someone like a Barkov who can sit with him in the defensive side as a center, and then you need a grittier type of forward like a Matthew Tkachuk, let's say. I'm not saying these are this type line mates, because obviously that's like an all-star line, but I'm just saying you need players like that to get the best out of him. And it's not going to work if you're going to play with him, John Tavares and Matthews. And after that, your third line's never going to have like crazy talent. So use him in good situations, boost up his value, and maybe you can trade him for like Pedersen or something, package Robertson, Michelli, throw in like 2 first rounds or whatever, because they want to kind of get rid of him too. His numbers are not good. His contract is, let's be honest, ass for what he's doing. So you could theoretically maybe take a gamble on that, which if it's retained, I could see it happening, like at like 9 million, for example. I could see that happening. And
wait, so for who, sorry?
I mean, I'm not saying this is the exact trade, but I'm just saying, like, you throw in Robertson, Michelli, like draft picks for Elias Pettersson, because his contract sucks. So if they retain even like 2 million, right?
I don't know.
You can see a second line center. Okay,
I know, but I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, we talk about like the soft guys and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not trying to say you need to get like mutants in here and just meatheads, but like saying Pettersson is the guy. I think that's the wrong fit. I think it's the wrong kind of guy that you're looking for, and the production has fallen off here as well. Also, I disagree with you on like the Nick Robertson thing in terms of like him on the third line and stuff. Like, I think he fits there. I think you just need to play them more and have more trust in them. He's not going to play on Auston Matthews' line because that would be 2 shooters. I think that's fair. I think that if you put him on the second line, it's a very similar situation because it's him and Nylander now, and you want Nylander to be the shooter. But keeping him on the third line, I think, is great. Like, I think he brings a lot and has changed his game. I think that would work. I think it works. I think he's adapted. You saw how feisty and tenacious he is. He can score. Like, I disagree with you on that. I think he works here, and I think he's cheap and fits in your bottom 6. So I don't know. Like, that's not a kind of guy I would be trying to move off of. That's a guy I would actually rather be here for the future. If somebody calls on him and offers you something that you can't refuse, sure, different story, but I don't think that's going to happen. So for me, I'm not looking to move off of him or like actively seeking a trade to get rid of him. And Pettersson's for sure not the guy for me.
Okay, now let me ask you, he's going to have to re-sign. He's at 1.8 right now.
Yeah. He's
going to want to get a higher pay raise than that, right? Somewhere around 3 is what I would assume. Hey, you know what? 3.1, 3 to like 3.5. That's probably what I'm assuming they're going to look for. Now, would you rather have another person who makes 3 million on your third line? Again, I like him, but I just think this is the wrong fit because you have a bigger hole in the second line position because you not only need a winger there, you need a center there to play with Willie. So if you trade him in a package for Pedersen, you can now get maybe a Tavares, Pedersen, Nylander line where Tavares can excel in digging out pucks, which he's actually good at. Pedersen is good at the two-way game. He's good at facilitating the puck. Willie is good at shooting the puck. You have people that complement each other.
But Pedersen is supposed to be more of a scorer.
I mean, yeah, he's a scorer, but he's not a shooter. He's generally a pass first player. If you look at his stats,
he's supposed to like early on he was a shooter, and that has fallen off. He's like a 40+ goal guy. I don't know. I also think just the way he plays and stuff is not. It's too much of what you've had here before and what you've been trying to get yourself away from. So I'm not in on the Pedersen trade.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. You know, not every person thinks the same way, and I'm not gonna hold you account to it. But yeah, I just think that you have a bigger problem in the second line. That's only gonna get bigger because now you have two weaknesses there.
Well, I agree, but I just don't think it's Pedersen, and I'm not trying to say you're wrong. That's not what I'm trying to do. I just am saying like I agree with you that you are gonna have a problem there, and you need a second line center. But it's not, to me, it's not Elias Pettersson. That's not the answer.
And I don't know how you're going to get it either, right? Like, no one's going to come in there without...
That might be one of those ones, and people don't want to hear this, and I understand why, but like, you look at a Robert Thomas, and maybe if they're asking you for an Easton Cowan or a Danford, or maybe they want a roster player like a Matthew Knies, you have to consider it given what maybe the package could be in a deal like that, because... He's 26 years old. He's going to be your second line center. He's an unbelievable playmaker. He could play with William Nylander. He can play on your first power play unit. That's the guy you could have as a second line center who's under a contract for $8.5 million for the next 5 years. Like, that is the kind of guy I would look at. I'm not saying the Leafs have the assets, but I'm saying you entertain things like that because your 2C position is going to be unbelievably important, and you need to find guys more like that who are physical and big and strong, who can also move up and down the ice quickly, are really good puck movers, can score. He's also won a Stanley Cup. He's won at every level he's played at. Like, that's the kind of guy I would be looking to add to this lineup, and that's the kind of guy I would be willing to move off of prospects for to get him into this lineup, because he'll be here for a long time. He's got a great contract, and I think he helps you be better, significantly better next year. Like Jack pointing out and Hurt Locker pointing out, $8.125 million is his deal, and he's got 5 years left on that contract. Like, if you have to trade a Matthew Knies, and I'm not suggesting, like, I'm not trying to run him out of town, but you have to, at bare minimum, entertain it, because that type of player that you're getting back there is so good and is going to fill a very specific hole for you that you don't have, and then you got to find other guys elsewhere to fill your wing positions. Like, I love Matthew Knies, but Robbie Thomas 2C coming in here under that contract is unbelievable. He makes $1 million more than Matthew Knies does, or about $1 million more, and he's under term. So, like, you're saying Pedersen, I think that's a complete opposite type of player of what you'd be looking for in a guy like Robert Thomas, and that's where I would rather be. I'm not saying it's doable. I'm not saying that you have the pieces. I have no fucking idea. And I'm not trying to run Matthew Knies out of town, but I'm just saying, like, they're going to be looking for young pieces. They might be looking for a roster player, and that's more so what I would be looking at than Elias Pettersson and taking a project at $9+ million.
I mean, we both have the same idea in the sense of, like, hey, we need to replace a 2C. It's just how we go about it different. Like, I mean, I agree with you. I would love to get Robert Thomas, but
yeah,
like, realistically speaking, he's not cheap comparatively to someone like Pettersson. That's why I was proposing that, hey, we don't have too much to begin with. And you can then use cheaper wingers around them and see if that works, because Pettersson has done it before, and people don't lose talent overnight, right? It's generally a combination of, hey, you're in a shit situation. As a result, your performance hinders, and now you don't have that determination to. But let's be real. If I was in Vancouver, I'd want to fucking kill myself. Like, that team is horrendous. So
yeah. Oh, and also good point here. Jack says Wall to St. Louis. He's a St. Louis boy, and they're probably going to be looking to move off of Bennington. Maybe it's a Joseph Wall fit in St. Louis, and that gets you your 2C, and you keep Nyes, and you keep Matthews, and you keep Tavares and Nylander, and it helps you there. Like, maybe that's the move. Maybe you have another piece that helps them that somebody else doesn't, that you're willing to trade. But anything else here tonight, Rahul? Otherwise, we'll probably start to wrap this show up tonight.
One last thing. I don't think people pay attention to this either, but like, we've had certain draft picks that we don't like use, for example, like Ronnie Herman and all these guys.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they're useless. You know what I'm saying? Like, I check up on Ronnie Herman from time to time, and he's not useless. Like, you see him playing the Swedish league, and he's putting up really good numbers, and he's a good two-way player. Just because he doesn't work in your organization doesn't mean it doesn't work in other places, right? Someone else could value them more differently than you can. So maybe you can use him as a side piece in other trades to potentially entice people in. Hey, you know what? Maybe your project for our project type of situation. Why are they just sitting there until you just lose their rights?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's harder to trade some of these guys if they're not here in Toronto or in the AHL. It makes it a little bit difficult because, like, they're beyond the point of prospects in terms of guys who are ELC, like pieces coming through that are just like playing over there, and you're like, oh, we're giving up on this piece who's like 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, who's playing over there still. You know, he left here, didn't fit here, and now you just own the rights. So it's not like as much of a return, but it could be a return for sure. So I understand what you're saying, Rahul. I appreciate the call here tonight. You're welcome to call back anytime. Thank you for the call, and enjoy the rest of your night.
You too, man.
All right, there you go. Rahul on the post game. Appreciate the insights from Rahul. One thing I saw commented, by the way, which is kind of funny. I'm not going to do anything about this here more than this, but Johnny Criniti says on Twitter, replied, Leafs have the same amount of wins as Vegas. No one is saying how bad they are, LOL. I mean, it's a fair point. It's kind of funny. Like, the Leafs have, after tonight, the Leafs have 25 wins. They have 17 in regulation. The Vegas Golden Knights have 25 wins, 18 in regulation. So it's not apples to apples, but it's kind of funny. All right, let's get out of here on this. Let's do the play of the game and the grade of the game. We'll just do these things quickly, but play of the game is the Nick Waugh goal. Amazing play by Nick Robertson. Down the wall, the spinorama, get back to open ice, pass the puck to Nick Waugh, who finds himself into the soft spot of the ice and buries on a one-timer. That's my play of the game. My grade of the game, I think, is going to be like a B-. That's B- for me tonight. I know they won, but that's against a terrible team with a lot of injuries, and you didn't look very good. Joseph Wall was really good. No power plays, no penalty kills is nuts in a game like this, but that's going to be my grade of the game. B-. Thanks to everybody who watched tonight. Thanks to all the callers. Thanks to all the super chats. I will be back here on Monday and Tuesday for the final two games before the Olympic break for game previews and post-game shows. And Nick and Rosie will be live together from Alberta, breaking everything down that happened this weekend over the 2 days live in person. So thank you guys all for watching here today. We will see you guys back here for another edition of Leafs Nation After Dark on Monday. Leafs Morning Take, Monday at 11 a.m. See you guys then. Until then, keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, This Morning Take, Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos. Make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss